What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Star Quality. I wanted to do a little intro before we get into this extra special episode. This episode is all about the final era that we're in of Neptune and Pisces before we move into Neptune and Aries this week. I'll get into in the episode, but we do dip back to Neptune and Pisces eventually. So we will be back in this energy yet again. But the reason I wanted to make a little show note before we get on with the show is this episode was recorded a little bit ago. It was recorded like a week or so after the 2024 election. So I believe we timestamp it in the episode and address the date, but it was like I think November 10th ish 2024. And yeah, and now we've been deeply in the energy of 2025 thus far. And just wanted to give that heads up that there's been some time, but I don't think that's to any, you know, negative. It's just information. So you might hear us reference to 2024 still, whatever, who knows? Maybe you're listening to this episode in the future in 2027 and looking back. But either way, as of this release time, we're just about to enter this new phase of Neptune in Aries. And I was just so thankful to have this conversation with keyoncé that just spans all things Neptunian. So please check out the links in the show notes and in the body of this post. And follow keyoncé, get readings with keyoncé, check out their work, listen to their DJ mixes, which I also listed. I just think keyoncé is extremely talented and has perspectives that I've always just really connected with. And I'm just so glad that they were able to come on and talk to me for a really long time because we could not stop. And yes, I hope this Neptune in Pisces 29-degree reflection is helpful for you. I would love to hear your comments in the comments. So please interact here and let me know your thoughts. And if there's any other Neptune and Pisces observations that you have, and enjoy this week's episode. Star quality.
I got it. I got this. You got it. You got it. I charge this out. Look at me go. Sun been rising. It's all about time. It's all about time. Earthlings. What's it all mean? What's it all mean?
Star quality.
What's it all mean? What's it all mean? Mean.
Star quality.
No, dude, really, what does it all mean?
I got it. You got it. We got it. Star quality. Star quality. Welcome to Star Quality. I'm your host, Stevie, and I do have a special guest today. Their name is keyoncé, and we've been little internet friends for some time and had an IRL.
During the last election, we did an episode. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I'll link it. I mean, I haven't listened to it since. I think it came out. I think I looked at our episode date, and it was on What's Your Sign podcast, my previous podcast, and it came out I think December 2020. I know we probably talked about a lot of Capricorn energy because keyoncé is the Capricorn.
12th house stellium Capricorn and stellium also, yeah.
Super Cap. And yeah, we've just been internet friends. I love keyoncé's work and words, and just like, I don't know, you're someone whenever I see your posts, I'm like, yep.
We hung out in New Orleans.
Oh my God, thank God.
There.
Because I was hanging out with some secret evil people.
A few days to recover from that. We tore
it up.
We tore the streets up.
And then keyoncé doesn't know I was technically on an evil bachelorette where everyone secretly hated me, and I didn't find out years later. And guess what? I'm going to tell this on anonymous mode. Because folks, if they've been following me for a while, like they know I tell everything about my life basically. But maybe we'll see if I do a Neptune and Aries time. We'll talk about that. But well, it's going to be my 10th house. We'll talk about that. But I just found out like this. We'll see if this makes it in the episode. I met up one of the people who like joined that band of evil bachelorette people reached out to me this past week after we talked, Keyoncé, after I booked you for this, and revealed that the ringleader of that circuit, like, it like pissed on her couch twice. She's such like a blackout drunk. And I was like, when you just get that piece of info where you're like, I needed I didn't actually need that because I knew I was right in my spirit and soul, but that felt good. This feels good to have in the wallet,
Mhm.
like I was like,
And then you're spinning back karma with someone who hasn't done anything, and you're in New Orleans. I do, I'm a witch, so I'm like, you
mm-hmm,
don't mess with that kind of energy there. You need to come correct. So
mm-hmm,
even for them to do that to you there, and you're like a spiritually aligned person, and I think that's kind of like you just don't do that. So it's already bad energy that's on them. So,
mm-hmm. And
but I couldn't even tell because I walked in like, "Hey, what's good, y'all?" Blah
well,
blah.
I didn't
Blah.
really know
Oh
fully
yeah,
at the
you didn't know
time
either.
because
Oh
there are
wow.
some people
Yeah.
who will be around you for sure
Hey.
that want to be you.
Hmm.
And it's not even in a cocky way.
Talk
It's
about it.
just facts. And when the secret things or the like, I don't know, it's just when and
Hmm.
I think I was also working on like, well, we've been friends so long. This can't be how
Mm.
it is. But time doesn't mean that you have to stay in anything for a
At
certain amount of
all.
time.
Things are cyclical. Everything has its time. Some things last for a long time.
I mean, I'm thinking back, like somewhere in my spirit, I'm like, wait, I texted my internet friend to meet up on this bachelorette. Like, I feel like I would have never invited someone out on someone's air quote special occasion, but something in me, I think, was like, now you're the highlight of that trip when
And it
I
was
look
our
back.
first time meeting ever in person. So,
Mm-hmm.
but I knew we were going to get along. That's why I was like, okay. So I
Mm-hmm.
already had it. Yeah. So that's so funny because they were kind of, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
none of them was like, you were the only person that I was really there for, but
Of
we
course.
had so much fun.
Yes. This is just to follow the instincts urge to folks. Like, if you're having a weird experience, like do what you can to make it enjoyable and seeking pleasure in this life. But we're gonna talk about Neptune at in Pisces today because we have a lot of planets that are switching signs next year that are our slow moving outer planets. We have one coming up in 9 days. We're recording right now on Sunday, November 10th, 2024, just for some context. But we've already had a taste of Pluto and Aquarius a little bit, but then next year we're having this back and forth, also like a taste test of the future where, Saturn, I think Saturn too. Saturn's going to pop into Aries for a second, come back into Pisces before it wraps up its run in Pisces. Now, Saturn's a little quicker, not as long as Neptune, which is like a 14-year cycle. So Neptune's been in Pisces, and we're going to dip into Aries and then back into Pisces. And then same thing with Uranus. Uranus has been in Taurus since 2018. It's going to dip into Gemini and then come back to Taurus. So next
Oh,
year, I mean, if you're watching this on video, I'm doing like a hand sway motion. Like we really are like, this.
people need to ground and take
Mm-hmm,
care of their mental health because
mm-hmm.
these kind of transitions is very intense.
Yeah, like it feels like a whiplash, right? Like
Yeah.
and also believe what you're being told. In many ways, believe what you're being
Mhm.
told. Believe that the things that are happening are actually happening. And
Because they're going to
especially,
be extraordinary.
especially for Neptune and Aries, because coming from Pisces, which is so, take a shot. I'm sure you've heard Pisces described as dreamy and ethereal, and it's home in Neptune, and looking at it as a modern ruler. And then it's an Aries, which is like, bitch, this is what's actually going on. Like, this is the truth. Get your head out of the clouds. I
Hmm.
mean, I think there will be some possibly fun things also related with Neptune and Aries. I mean, I think of Neptune as, and I've heard it described as this as a higher octave of Venus, right? Like we can enjoy Neptune on many levels, but
Hmm.
like every planet is going to show the light and the shadow. And so
And
I
I
think,
feel like, yeah.
what are you
I
going to
was going
say?
to talk about because I know I've mentioned on Instagram like the rise of cults and stuff like that, and Neptune in Aries definitely feels like it's like leadership that it's like the people are going to be really reaching for any kind of populist idea if they're, that
Yeah.
are not grounded in reality. So I definitely, because, Neptune is very unpredictable. But I think, yeah, of course, people just need to kind of ground in their immediate reality because we're
Yes.
seeing that there are multiple types of realities. Like like, it's not just about frequency, but we literally, not like I'm trying to create any kind of division, but it's above race in many ways too. Race, gender, sexuality. If you don't exist on a certain frequency where you want to be in I guess like a more global state of consciousness, we are
Mm-hmm.
seeing what is happening. You know what I mean? So people
Mm-hmm.
need to be more in a global state of even Christ consciousness, global state of consciousness to understand the patterns that are happening and just to understand and not just be in a constant state of like, no, that's not happening. Because we see from the past presidency, 2016 to 2020, every day it was something more extraordinary. Just kind of like,
Yeah.
what? Yeah.
Believe it. It makes me think of like that scene in Rosemary's Baby, if anyone's ever seen
Mhm.
that classic horror film, where it's I feel like it's been like a Tumblr image of mine for like now years. It's like, this is not a dream, it's really happening. And it's like, yeah, you're literally being impregnated by the devil. And they're literally the people
Mhm.
in your apartment building are gaslighting the fuck out of you. Sorry, spoiler alert. But also, if
Exactly.
you need a spoiler alert for Rosemary's Baby, I'm sorry, it's been out in the collective now for decades. So still worth spoiler alert be damned, it's still worth a watch. It's like everyone's going to tell you that it's not happening every
Exactly.
but if you feel like I think it's happening, like it is. Okay, I'm going to put a pause. We're going to go through dates really quick and get some stats and stuff. But before we do, you mentioned being a witch, can't say. I would love maybe if you could fill in the audience, like
Oh
tell us
yeah.
more about your background. Like I would love to know your practice, where what you're up to right now, and yeah,
Yeah.
just a little intro to you before we get further lost in the Neptune sauce,
Okay,
as
yeah.
Neptune does.
I will give a very short introduction. So I'm based in Atlanta, but my family is from Mississippi and Louisiana. And actually, my grandmother was very intuitive, like had premonitions, all that kind of stuff. So I do tarot, like intuitive tarot, coaching. I'm also like a full-time marketer. But the reason I call myself a witch is because I do practice. Like Louisiana, Mississippi hoodoo. There's a lot of different types of hoodoo, you know, depends on the area of the country that you're from. But so that's what I'm really well known for is just educating on that, and those practices and, just practices in real life, actually, in communities.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so, yeah, that's a little bit about me. I moved to Atlanta about a year and a half ago from New Orleans, but I did spend about 4 or 5 years in New Orleans, and grew a community there. It was more online. I really started doing tarot in Chicago when I lived there for about 5 years. Like I was in the streets in Chicago. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah,
What were your Chicago years again? I know we both have connected on our Chicago living times, but did we overlap? We must have.
I feel like we did because I did my research there when I went to Michigan. I would stay there during the summers, but I moved there formally in like 2014 and then left around 2019 at the
Okay,
beginning
so
of the year.
we just I because I left September 2015. So we
Oh,
like a
okay.
year overlap. Okay, because I was gonna be
That's so
sad if we had a
funny.
lot of years overlap. I'd be like,
Where
wait,
did you hang out? Were you in Wicker Park, Logan Square,
Logan
or
Square, baby, with all the
I
little.
lived in Logan Square.
Wait, you
Yeah.
did? Where was your?
Yeah.
I mean, we can say this now, I guess.
Shakespeare, Armitage,
Oh my God,
Shakespeare.
I was on Armitage and Kimball. I was basically across from. It used to be a bar called Marbles.
I know I spent like 2 weeks there because my
We
old
were in
friend
Coles
lived there.
together, I'm sure.
Yeah, we went to the same places. Did you ever go to Reno and stuff like that?
Reno?
The pizza
Reno,
place?
yes. Oh my God. Sorry, your
Yeah,
cute,
that was
your
my
cute Southern
place.
drawl. I was like, Reno.
Reno.
I was
Get it.
like, oh yes. I mean,
Did
yeah,
you
I
ever
was,
go to Reno and them?
Reno. No, I went to Marbles. Sorry. I hope that.
Scofflaw.
Oh my God,
You remember the
Scoffa.
midnight
Sorry.
cookies?
This is a memory. This is a memory lane zone. Yeah, I mean, I used to work at the Button Factory next to Marble. I don't know if you know
Oh,
about Busy Beaver
wow.
Button Company.
Yes.
Those pressing
Wow.
buttons, doing machine labor as Tauruses
Hard
do
labor.
sometimes. But I mean, I was just living a true. I mean, you kids, I know y'all are loving the indie sleaze revival, but I was living it. I was living that.
Yes,
I was in those
that
rip
was
tights,
the
making pinback punk buttons. Like I know.
thing.
I mean, that sounds kind of cool now when
I
I
will
say
say
it like that.
Chicago women are hardcore. But
Yeah,
also, I've never found I like Chicago has a very specific kind of like community experience for me because
totally.
a lot of people there's so many people that there that are supportive. They do not stand for any kind of BS. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I have a lot of family there that moved up there in the 1930s
Oh
from
wow.
Mississippi during like the Great Migration, you know,
Mm-hmm.
to flee, whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love Chicago. I also was in my first coven there. So
Oh my
a
God.
year, a year we met on every new moon,
Oh my God. I love
eating
that. Yeah. I
for the
mean,
blizzards.
I think Chicago too just is so constantly culturally, coastally
So
overlooked.
dynamic.
I mean, now it's having a little moment with the bear, I guess, but
People don't
it's
really realize.
people, it's a, if you just need a warehouse space to make your art. I mean, again, I haven't lived there since 2015, so I can't really speak to,
But back then,
but back then, I mean, so many DIY home shows,
mhm,
house shows. I mean, it's the land of
music
very cheap
performances.
alcohol, which is why
What?
I had to leave. Truthfully, I was like, I
Don't
can't.
even talk about it. I'm such a lush.
Yeah, I'm all New Orleans is like that times like 600 trims. Crank it up. That New Orleans is very Neptune.
But Chicago is a different kind. New Orleans is very like, la
Hmm.
c'est le bon temps roulé, do your thing, baby. We gonna go down to the quarters and we're gonna drink a little bit.
Right.
Chicago's like, we are about to rage.
Yeah.
Chicago's
Hmm.
like, it's that Midwest drinking, you know what I mean?
It is like it is the I have been a bear hibernating.
Yes.
And because I took my husband, this was the first time we went like in the summer was 2021. And it was like Wicker Park on a July night is just you haven't you guys have you have never seen anything like
And
it.
he's Mexican. Did you go to Pilsen and stuff like that?
Yeah.
How Spence. That's why I also continued speaking Spanish so much because
Hmm.
I was in Pilsen all the time. I lived
Yeah,
near
that's where
Humboldt
I lived
Park.
when I went to UIC. I lived in
Oh,
Pilsen
you
from
went to
2000.
UIC. Okay,
Yeah.
smart girl. Okay.
I don't
Like,
know.
what is
Yeah, and
I'm sorry.
I lived in Pilsen. I would buy 10-cent coffee from the butcher. This is like 2007. Like, doesn't that just
Oh,
sound I
wow.
don't think that kids not that
Whoa, yeah.
I know, like not to like I lived across from a
I
butcher and every
remember.
morning I would roll over, I'd see a pig's head getting chopped off, and I'd be like, that's where I'm gonna go get 10-cent coffee. And that was my life for many years. I mean, it was so close to my
It's
school.
cheaper. I
Yeah.
remember when gas was $1.50.
I know when you ever see like photos when you're like hanging out with your friends and looking, you're like, what is that? Like, is that a legal price? But isn't that again the things that we've said, okay, this is fine. And I think that that will be then maybe Neptune Aries pushback too of like, how much have we just rolled over and accepted in many ways? Because Pisces, let's talk about Pisces energy let's just talk about Pisces energy for a second, because I think what is your connection to Pisces, whether it be the Pisces people you've met or just thinking about Pisces symbolism? Because we've been in
Mm,
Neptune and Pisces basically since 2011, and
mm,
it's going to fully switch out in 2026. I'm going to give a date report in a second. But before we do, yeah, I'm just
yeah.
curious your like connection or keywords or
Yeah.
symbolism to Pisces.
So, I like to get kind of philosophical with it.
We love.
Pisces definitely, water sign, dreams. But I also do think about Jesus and Pisces and the fish, the two fish.
Oh,
It's
yes.
like the merging of the, extra dimensional reality with the kind of like physical 3D reality.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Because that's kind of what Jesus was, he's like a manifestation of the divine here on
Mm-hmm.
earth. And so Pisces a lot of times is about kind of like that journey towards realizing the commonalities and stuff like that, in
Okay.
reality and connectedness, oneness. But then I guess on the flip side, if we have keywords, Pisces, dreamy, intuitive,
Mm-hmm.
liminality is definitely something that I think about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think. I think of Pisces, I'm just thinking of like the people I know and just like how maybe seeing it play out in like a real time. I feel like they often don't get taken as these like business people a lot of the time, even though they can really
Yeah.
they have such knack and naturalness. And like I've had like readings with folks, and also Keyoncé mentioned their readings. I've had tarot reading with Keyoncé before. Amazing, can vouch. I mean, that was years ago. I'm due for a refresh for sure. So
Yeah.
just had a
But
shout
mine are
out.
so good, you don't have to get any more
Well, I know
for
I was so
because
aligned.
I
I was like,
pack in, the information. I don't do it just to get a quick buck. You know what I mean?
no, no, I don't. I don't think either of us are the quick buck kind of people.
No.
We're the long
I got a
game.
full-time job. I'm doing a lot of other
Mm-hmm.
things too. So
And I think that's a good reminder too. I think a lot of folks, and aren't we in this era where people are renting planes for photos and they're renting clothes for photo shoots? Like
Neptune and
a
Pisces. Yeah.
lot of people, like a lot of us have jobs, like regular jobs,
Mhm.
and like yeah, we
Regular.
dream for this to then be the runaway train that like takes us and supports us, and that's done through the help of anyone listening who enjoys my
Mhm.
work or Keonce's work. So shout out.
Yeah,
But
you go through cycles with it. You know,
but yeah, just like don't feel like shit if you have to have a job. Like that's literally normal. Like I would
care
love to
above
be a
things.
trust fund child,
Yeah,
but I'm just that didn't pan out for me.
exactly.
So one day, we're
It's better
working.
than just living in some illusion. Like you said,
Hmm.
renting, even renting like a black van Uber. You know what I mean? That black SUV
Oh
Ubers.
yeah, yeah.
Look, it's like, cha. I'm
Hmm.
about what's up here. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? What's your experience? You know.
Hmm. Well, so yeah, and I think Pisces just does have a naturalness in where they can take sort of be open and have that chance, but because they're such an open container that can also attract
Mhm.
in everybody
Right.
and everything. I think
Everything.
there's just some signs that are more prone to that, especially water signs, because they are in
Mhm.
flow. And it's so funny too, like whenever someone's like, oh, like I was trying to predict or guess which this author's not Bret Easton Ellis, who wrote American Psycho. And I just had my husband Pablo like describe to me his personality. And he was describing all these things and they sounded all over. And I would never have guessed Pisces, but I always forget sometimes Pisces encompasses a little bit of all the signs too.
Mhm.
Truthfully, like they have that like very
Fluidity.
chameleon metamorphosis energy. So I think Pisces being a mutable sign as well, a mutable water sign, can
Mm.
really fit whatever it's being presented to. Where Aries, when we're going to totally start a new cycle, we're at the end of the zodiac. Aries is the beginning, no matter what, like, period. Like, we've just hit Neptune's been through all
Mhm.
the signs and we're starting again. And Aries does not just fit into whatever you give it to. That is very not Aries. Aries is going to actually
Mhm.
start the things that they want you to fit into versus Pisces fitting into this world. I think Aries is going to be like, no, this is my world that you can now fit. It's more
Mhm.
the I'm doing like a hand motion of like it's like how a dog puts out energy where a cat
Mhm.
absorbs. Like it's big,
Projecting.
yeah, it's big dog dog projector energy. But so Neptune's been in Pisces. Here's a little
Mhm.
date timeline. We had Neptune in Pisces from April 4th, 2011 through August 5th, 2011. So that was like a taste. Then it retrograded back into Aquarius. And then as of April 3rd, 2000, or no, sorry, that was the
Okay.
Instagram date I had written down. As of February 3rd, 2012, it's been in Pisces. And that's where it's now going to stay through January 26, 2026. Besides, it's a lot of info, but that's astrology for you. We are like little mathematicians sitting here with all of our dates. Besides that, it's going to go into Aries March 30th, 2025. It's going to retrograde back into Pisces on October 22nd, 2025. And then it's going to re-enter Aries on January 26th, 2026. And then it's finally gonna then it'll be there till 2039. So yeah, and then another date while I'm like just going wild. We've been at the end,
Girl.
and this is what prompted me and Keontae, we were DMing like of we've been at this end of Neptune and Pisces basically since I'm gonna say 20 because we're right now at 27 degrees of Pisces, Neptune and Pisces. We've been at that since like May 2023. We've been at Neptune at this like the final degrees. You know how like when you're in your
Hmm.
20s, you're like, I'm mid early 20s when it's 20 to 23. Like I'm gonna call it the end because it's 27 degrees. Like we're edging this change. And we've been lingering at this 29 degrees, this final degrees of Pisces, and really wrapping up this era, which Neptune we can also focus back to like a lot of different trends. And I think this is what's interesting about like longer
Hmm.
term, long game astrology is we do want to look at Neptune, Uranus, and Pluto, these outer planets, because they're really giving us these time capsules that we can
Flipping
look back
things.
on. Um, so that was a lot of information, but just giving you this time period. But what's interesting is in that little window where we had a taste of Neptune and Pisces from April 4th to August 5th, 2011, Bin Laden was killed. We had the Fukushima
Hmm.
aftermath. Gaga's Born This Way was released, which was, I feel like, one of the last times we had like almost
Yes.
religious controversy over like a music
Oh,
video. I feel like that was really common
yes.
back in the day. Like, oh my God, Madonna
Oh, this
was
way.
a sinner. And like, Judas was the big thing with Gaga with
Hmm.
like, oh my God, how could she? And now
I
it'd be
love
like, who
this.
cares?
Don't nobody care,
now
But
everyone's
this
like,
was it Wall Street? Was it Walkout on Wall Street? Was that in 2011? When was that? What was it?
I think it was,
Let me look on the computer.
oh, like Occupy.
Occupy Wall Street.
I think
Yeah.
that was
That's
2000.
2011.
Oh wait, yeah, but that was the so that was when it was still retrograded back a little bit into
2011.
Aquarius.
Oh,
But it was in
wow.
that year, 2011. But I think so we were getting that edge of Neptune and Aquarius, which to highlight for y'all too, because this is a long ongoing story. Neptune was in Aquarius from 1998 to 2012. And Aquarius, we do relate to technology and the internet. And that was our really
Mm-hmm.
big boom of interconnectivity, especially Aquarius related to community. And Neptune isn't happy in
Mm-hmm.
Aquarius, which is interesting to think about as well.
Mm-hmm.
There is it's like I think exalted in Leo and in fall in Aquarius. So now Neptune has technically moved home and it's been home for some time. And it's not necessarily bad in Aries. I mean, we just don't really know, like yet, like in a
Yeah.
modern sense. But what we do know is the last time Neptune was in Aries, which is what we're going to have upcoming, was from 1861 to 1874. And I'm not a his,
1861 to 1874.
yeah, which was the American Civil War and
Mm-hmm.
Reconstruction, and but also with science, like there was a lot of scientific developments, and there was also
Mm-hmm.
still like a big arts and culture boom, of course, like outside of the United States. The United States was in a really, dramatic time to say it in a
Mm-hmm.
very
Yeah.
simplified way. But I think too, Aries, since it is this Martian forward cardinal fire sign, like it is like there isn't, I don't think acceptance like Pisces energy is going to necessarily be here. But I think also on a positive end, how much of the things that we've been accepting that we don't accept, like there's always going to be
Yeah.
the positive and negative to this bubble popping that I think Neptune and Aries will for sure be in a very literal Piscean, like you little mermaids with
Yeah.
your bubbles, just kidding, like what have you been doing, just dicking around in playland, like we have some shit
Mhm.
to do. So um yeah, I'm curious, like I know I threw out like a lot of data and information, but does anything spark you, Keyoncé, from like
Yes.
what I just ranted on with these, just thinking about this and in terms of like time.
No, rant on. I don't see it as a rant. I
Okay.
genuinely enjoy talking to you. So
Okay, great,
we're
great.
just kicking.
I
But
know
yes,
this can
I
happen
do
in my
think
readings sometimes where I'm like, so that was a fuck ton of information. Let's digest. Here we go.
no,
Okay,
I'm
great.
digesting it. Yeah,
Great.
I feel like right now with Neptune and Pisces moving into Aries, we're dealing with like the spiritual implications of this like expansion of consciousness. Because
Mm-hmm.
I remember in 2013, I was pro-Palestine, but it
Yep.
used to be like if you said anything about Palestine, it was like,
Mm-hmm.
you are a terrorist. Like,
Yep.
but now it's like people are actually understanding like I not only like the economic repercussions of the military state,
Mm-hmm.
and also the connections, between the weapons and the technology that's used on Palestinian people in the Congo, And here
Mm-hmm.
there's commonalities between it, but I think we as a species are becoming more aware of, the what Marx talks about as far as alienation of labor. We're coming to the part where we're like, dang, sweatshops are whoa, because it's like people think, I'm not trying to like, well, it's not really about the election, but it kind of is. People, this rhetoric of thinking that things are going to get cheaper. It's like, no, the
Hilarious.
reason they are cheaper is because of alienation of labor and also because of outsourcing. And it's like if things are here in the US, it's going to cost more. That's how economics works. But it's like
Mm-hmm.
we are coming to this. I think that's why there's so much opposition, this agenda to for this opposition. It's like women's rights. We're coming into like Black women understanding about the world. Just we're understanding more about how we're all connected across it. Like what happens here affects what happens across the world. What happens
Mm-hmm.
in Sri Lanka, it affects us. We're not disconnected. You know what I mean? So it's like I do think we are kind of dealing with this awakening, because Pisces will just blow everything up. And so it's like, whoa, people are like,
Mm-hmm.
holy crap. So that's why I am always talking about like mental health.
Yes.
Um, because in the spiritual community, there's a lot of different kinds of experiences in terms of
Mm-hmm.
their realities.
There- Some of us dabble with a tinfoil beret every once in a
Yes.
while.
So I think it's important, to pay it to stay grounded because it
Yes.
can be a lot to just like be like, oh my God, all this stuff is connected. Holy crap. And
Right.
then with like with it moving into Neptune and Aries, I think we are gonna see a lot more, of this like pointed, um, I guess like movement towards some kind of progress, or maybe it's not even progress because people are just moving in all kinds of different directions.
I think
But
that's like there's a decentralizing that's happened with Neptune and Pisces, and
mhm.
especially in culture because culture is
Yeah.
communication between each other. And I think about that a lot where even, my sweet loving husband Pablo, he's a history major and he's very Virgo and is like, I'll be blah blah blah, and he's like, it's technically the most peaceful era, on Earth right now. Like, like when we zoom out, like it's like we have indoor
When we
plumbing
zoom
now,
out,
like
yeah.
like, and it's like right, but it feels like we should be further along in 2024. It
Right.
feels like this, and also we're the people who are first person consciously living it, so of
Mhm.
course it feels more
And it's
extreme
affecting
because
our material conditions. Like we
yeah,
realize
and we
that.
can
Like, wow.
and we're two people with microphones who can report on it too, which we didn't have as much documentation as well. So all of that has changed, but even in a mainstream society way, like I mean, he was telling me about something about like the actual viewership numbers about the New York the Madison Square Garden MAGA rally, and it was like, yeah, like not that many people actually watched this. It's just the people that who were concerned about it are all the people in one certain bubble, and most people are at work, like trying to survive, and
Mhm.
they didn't really hear about a lot of this shit and don't really even care. And I was
Yeah.
just like, oh right, we're in our bubbles. I mean, even this will be heard by people who are in a specific astrology mysticism bubble, like
Exactly.
where before, and this was my way to get to this, even thinking about Neptune and Aquarius, that final year being 2012, it does almost feel like that was the last year where it was like, oh my God, we're all watching Survivor. We're all watching American Idol. We're all watching this
Oh,
news
wow.
thing. Do you know what I mean? Like
That
where
is so true.
because we had this collective
We're all using this
media.
music platform.
Yeah, we all, oh my God, you've all heard this album. We're all like, even me, like I'll
Mhm.
be, thank God Charlie XCX is going on SNL soon. So now my mom will know who she is, where I've been like, oh my God, been an
True.
angel for some years
That
now.
is
Like,
how you found, because I think I forgot when Apollo ended. Because in the Black community, we had the Apollo, like where people,
oh, the
legends would go to perform, and that's how you found out about certain people. I mean, this is older, but I think it did
mhm.
come to a close in the later 2010 or in the early
Ooh,
2010s or whatever.
that's a
And I
good,
think Soul Train, I think also
yeah, it's like a very like, I'm like, oh, is it expanded?
2006 was Soul Train, and then what was it?
Hmm.
Apollo Theater. Apollo.
Yeah, I think. Well, they're planning to bring it back, it looks like.
Oh, wow.
I think I'm like doing like a quick wiki glance. So, um, don't come for me, anyone
I'm looking
listening.
at it too. Please
I
do not come for
don't
us.
think anyone at this point, what is
Oh,
coming for
2008. Wait, I
also
think.
what is coming for anyone done also of
Uh,
late, right? Y'all put that energy towards something different. But
I think it was within a few years at least. So it
mhm,
counts what we're talking
yes,
about. Because
having these institutions that symbol and let people know where culture is going, where my working background before doing podcasting and astrology was working in television, and we're seeing entertainment collapse right now. We're hitting the end. And what I hear and what I think is interesting is these executives at the top who make a fuck ton of money, duh, everyone at these tops are, and they're talking about how, well, people just don't want prestige television anymore. Like we saw the golden age of television come and go basically in this
mm,
time period. And now they're saying, well, you people will just survive on their reruns and everything's hosted in this one place and you can just keep coming
mm,
back to this. And they really let the the people dictate the culture when culture used to dictate the people.
no
And
more
now
A&R development.
no, it's like a total flip.
Are you an
And
influencer? Oh yeah.
yeah.
Like
All right. Well, that's enough. And it's like, oh, but can they
there's
see
an
this on
album
camera?
and then it's not successful. It's like, okay.
Yeah. There's no like just, and I think there's a few people who've broken through that, like Chapel Roan, for example, is like a very, different sort of person in this mix because she also stuck to her style and her guns and also had a great team of
Mhm.
songwriters and some and there's some industry stuff back there, but whatever, it's pretty light. But yeah, this idea, I think that it's interesting that these executives, to me, just looking at it from someone who kind of has a little inside knowledge, saying, well, people only want the things on their phones, where folks would be like, I think in the past would be like, well, how do we break through that? Well, how do we make it so enticing that they just have to watch it or have to see it? And
Mhm.
now, yeah, we don't have all the same. It's even interesting. Did you see? I'm sorry, I'm like so addicted to this movie. Have you seen the movie The Substance?
Let me what?
Oh my god, it's a new like horror movie. Everyone, if you've been subscribed to my Substack, everyone here is
I
like,
heard
stop
about
talking
this.
about The
I need to watch
Substance.
it.
Is
I
is what
love horror movies.
Okay, well, you please, it's on Mubi, so it's free. This is not a sponsored ad, everybody. But what's
Okay.
I thought was interesting in The Substance, so she's like a air quotes, washed up like 80s sort of aerobics instructor, like personality, celebrity, and she gets replaced basically as she gets older. Then she takes a drug that helps her create a younger version of herself. It's body horror. It's really gross, but it's so fucking
I
good. It's
love
very metal. Like it's like gnarly. Written directed by this French female director, Coralie.
Oh, you know it's gnarly then if she's Francois.
Yeah, that's what for sure. But I thought what was one of the more sinister parts of the movie, and this is not a spoiler alert, is the things that this star, the celebrity, kept striving for were extremely old versions of entertainment. Like, oh my God, if you keep doing well, we'll give you the cookie of hosting a daytime aerobic show. Oh my God, if you do well, you can host New Year's Eve live. Oh my God, if you do well, you can
Hmm.
have go on the talk show circuit. And it's like, we're still doing
Nobody
these.
care about that.
Exactly. We're still doing these rituals that were implemented in like the 60s,
Hmm.
basically. And it's seen as the height and peak of culture. And I think since Neptune and Pisces is related to the arts, I think we are seeing a huge frustration for artists right now across the board, whether you're a musician, a painter, a writer, or whatever, where we're like, so what is the goal? Like, what is success? Because even the rewards of success don't even feel that rewarding anymore. And a lot of the
Hmm.
times, too, people aren't even getting the pay that matches what that success used to be. So there does
Yeah,
seem
people
to be,
think they are, but
they think
not
they
getting
are.
paid anything.
So that was like I think I wonder what will change in terms of artist availability with Neptune and Aries. Like what, we're seeing a lot of people
Independent,
way
going independent.
I'm curious if there will be, we're seeing, especially in media, in journalism, how many magazines now and places where we'd find culture. I mean, God, remember,
That is interesting though.
like even like
Oh,
Vice and Pitchfork, like all these places that were like these oh my God, you have to be in this are now, I mean,
Because more people, more YouTubers are doing it. But I do
yeah.
think it would be interesting, like, because there have been more of these, like, Meg Thee Stallion is suing a popular vlogger on YouTube.
Oh,
So
really?
it's interesting that there has been, because I think there's this, and especially in the Black community, there has been this debate, especially around like the Meg Thee Stallion and Tory Lanez case of
Right.
trained journalists, which I do think people need to respect journalistic standards because there is a certain level of academic rigor that you have to go through to
Yes.
do textual analysis to verify facts. So
Hmm.
it's interesting that stuff has kind of decentralized. And it's like, people go to YouTubers or a certain influencer for news. It's not like this, like, centralized, like my mom will be like, I'm watching the 5 o'clock news, and I'm like, who do that? Like, shut up. Or that source of entertainment. Um,
Hmm.
but
Yeah.
yeah,
I think it's interesting. And I don't know when this term was, you know, granted or dawned on us, but like the collective, right? And I think hearing like, oh, this is from the collective, this is for the collective. And I think there's many positivities of that, of a collective. But now I think something for better or worse, things that people can prepare for is like, yeah, anyone can be a journalist, but not really because there are journalistic practices in it. Like
exactly.
anyone can be an astrologer, which I do think is true, but also
But
like,
like you said earlier, you need
yeah,
to earn your stripes. You need to respect the elders.
respect the elders. I think that was off. I mean, as soon as me and Keyoncé got on, I should have pushed record because we were just
The
like,
witch, I have a conversation with the witches too about
mhm,
that too. It's the same thing with people not respecting the craft, and then you see these people start doing tarot, and then they're like, "Oh my God, I'm a Christian." Like 2 years later, it's like, "I'm a Christian. I've done the work to integrate all this, gotten to know the elders, taken time to read. It's not like just a microwave kind of thing, because it's
mhm.
but you have to respect the community, respect those before you. So that's all. Yeah, we
Mhm.
need to.
That's a good segue into. I realize that we kind of described Pisces, but we haven't really fully defined Neptune. And maybe Neptune's not really a fully definable planet because that's almost the haha about Neptune and coming back because Neptune is related to mysticism. Neptune is related to, oh my God, I always I in my readings I jokingly describe Neptune the planet of like drunken orgies. Like I just think of
Yeah,
it as enjoyment. And of course, it's represented with
imagination,
Poseidon and the sea, imagination, intuitiveness, um,
escapism.
escapism, addiction sometimes. And also it can be not it's the fog. It's like going into a really clouded sauna or like, steam room. And I think sometimes wherever Neptune is, it's putting in all that ocean mist. So it might not also be fully clear. There's some things that might not be visible. I know in the 2016 election, there was a lot of Neptune stuff
Mm.
going on with like election interference and
Isn't it made out of gas also? It's like
yeah,
gas.
it's a steamy
Yeah.
planet and one of our outer planets. So also, for some folks who are more like traditional, they might not put that much weight into Neptune. I think the outer planets are fascinating. But what was cool, I saw this for related to the Vatican's mythographer said that because Neptune has the trident, and that is the glyph for Neptune when we see it as a planet. And it said that Neptune's trident was said to represent three properties of water: liquidity, I've never said this word aloud, fecundity, the ability to
Oh,
produce
yeah.
abundance, and oh my God, and drinkability.
Wow.
So
Huh.
I think that that's really fascinating in terms of it needs to be like, is there liquid? Is it have that like what is liquid? Is it abundant? And and this can also be connected to fertility or the ideas of new ideas, the abundance of ideas. And is it pure? And I was seeing a lot. Like I think Susan Miller had an Epstein article that talked about, which I never heard that before, was that Neptune purifies. It purifies wherever it goes because I've heard both. I've heard this like, oh my God, it can make things really cloudy and you don't know. But maybe for the things that
Wow.
are already cloudy and you don't know, it might purify and might be able to see better. And for places that
Hmm.
have been really pure and innocent, it might be like it's not as pure as innocent as one
Hmm.
might thought. So
It shows the illusion
yes,
also.
an illusion's a big a
Like
big keyword. And Neptune too, we can really often look for it to signal eras of fashion and artistic times as well. The last time we had Neptune and Pisces was the Romanticism era. And then when Neptune moved into Aries, last time we went more into realism. So kind of going, which makes sense
Neptune
for,
and Pisces. Was romanticism when it was cool to be like bigger in Europe?
yeah, it's like bigger in Europe and like very like, it's I see like cherubs and it's like very just like, oh, it's so like romantic and like
Is
on.
that why everyone was a whore in this
and
past? Because
uh,
the young kids these days, they don't really be in the streets the way that we were.
oh my God, I know.
They just are not at all. It's
it's a
like,
bit sexless, which is
yeah, I did want to talk about that too, and the BBLs, because it's
okay.
funny how we're, yeah. Oh,
Yes. No, I will let's do that. I just wanted to define Neptune a little bit too
yeah.
in terms of, and I think also astrologically, and this is kind of coming back to your astrologers and TikTok and respecting the elders. It's like I think we are going to see people turn against spirituality probably with Neptune and Aries because Neptune and Pisces 2011 to 2026. I mean, come on, that was like a huge spirituality boom. I was part of it. I can attest. Like I was there. I lived it.
Yes.
I mean, 2018 was like I feel like the biggest year for online spirituality, whatever. And I don't think it's ever going to go away. And spirituality always has its fads of
Eyeballs, yeah.
it being in vogue or not in
Safety.
vogue. But we saw this with the election and how much people were backlashing folks for having air quotes inaccurate predictions where I think astrology is pattern recognition. And
Mhm.
truthfully, I do think I was quoted to submit an election prediction in September for an article. And at the time in September, I thought not even just societally, but astrologically, Kamala had really great
Mhm.
mojo going for that first transitional period when her campaign decided to kind of go a little more Hillary mode. I was like, all right,
Big shift.
that's a little concerning. I think she did have the astrology to win, but she didn't have the campaign to win, truthfully. And
Mm-hmm. Because I do cards, so I waited until the night before the
yep.
election to do it, and then I didn't say anything to anyone about it, and I was like, huh. And I wrote on the paper because I did two pulls with two different tarot decks, and
Mm-hmm.
it was very like with Trump got like the Emperor and this other card, so with that kind of stuff it can shift, you know what I mean? But
Totally.
I even wrote on the paper, I was like, I hope this is not fucking true. And like,
But then too, like they had a lot of astrological similarity. They're both full moon
yeah.
babies. To call Trump a baby is weird, but you know what I mean. He's definitely a type of baby. They both have the North Node in Gemini. They both had Jupiter on that.
Mm.
Like they did have a lot more in common than not in common, and I think that is what made it quite hard to read for predictors. And also, every election predictor to this date, like this is the first time a lot of people who follow trends got it wrong. And I think that just goes to show that we are such in a new timeline. This is our first election post Pluto return with all these outer planets changing. With, okay, yeah, normally when you run a VP, their odds of winning are high, but not with a president who came in during a pandemic who also has a super low approval rating. So, like, there was a lot
Doesn't
of
really make a lot of sense either, in some ways. Yeah,
Exactly.
there's a
So
lot
I'm
of
not, but
questions.
also I think too, like, it like hurts my heart a little bit to see folks, and I click not interested when I'm not interested. But when I see folks like, I'm over astrology, you all got this wrong. I'm like, then you were never with astrology. Like, if your attitude
Oh,
is that stinky and like you're supposed to tell me everything that's supposed to happen with my life,
that
I'm
doesn't make
sorry.
any sense.
And I think but that is it's like the greed that kind of came with all the spiritual boom where
Mm.
everyone's like, oh, great. Well, if I have every planner, an app, and I follow every account, then I am going to have a perfect, easy life. And it's like, no one ever
Yes.
said that. Well, maybe some of them, maybe,
Mhm.
maybe some grifters did, but that's not what this is even. So that's my like, before I think we are going to see a big turn on the mysticism, and
Mm.
maybe that is for some protection to the mystical people as well.
That is so funny because I do astrology, but I'm not like I don't do astrology readings and stuff like that. But I'm
You're an
more
astrologer.
yeah, astrologer, but more I do tarot and stuff like that. Funny how like tarot does validate. And I was doing a reading, and also just paying attention. And a few days before the election, I did actually post that I have really been seeing the fact I've been seeing a trend and a need for spiritual groups and occultists to go underground and to
Yes.
work in actual community. Start a Zoom group,
Hmm.
post your content and stuff like that. But for me, I'm not really going to be posting content about 18th century ancient literature because it's not microwavable. I'm going to still post tarot, but it's like I have a Zoom group, that I formed and stuff like as far as like spirituality, I did post on like Instagram the other day that I think people need to go more underground with their practices. And like just because you practice something, like I practice Ifa, practice hoodoo, practice a number of other traditions, but I don't just post all that online. Like I post about tarot, and then otherwise it's nobody else's business because it's my personal practice. But I
Hmm.
think people need to be more discerning in just what they share. Like, don't just share everything that you use to understand the world.
Hmm.
Share it with your community, but otherwise, do it for self-protection. But I do think there is gonna be a trend, like you said, like public backlash against spirituality. But I think it's because we need to evolve.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's time to evolve and like kind of go more underground.
And hopefully there's not like legislation that is just pure witchcraft is illegal, even though that
That
already
is also
exists.
a thing. Yeah, because I look back at it after the election, I was like,
Let's
I'm not going underground, but
yes, but
but it
part
is.
elements. Well, I think about that a lot too. Um, with like I think about that even in like in my home when I take a photo and I'm like, oh my God, it's a beautiful sunset. I'm like, oh wait, anyone with Google Earth could, you know, find where you're posting from. Like everything's available. And so I
Mhm.
think too, like I know it sounds I think a lot of these things can start to sound in a very Pisces way, paranoid, right? Like in this,
Yeah.
but there that ping of paranoia or that ping of protection is I think, and especially in spirituality, that's information to not be ignored. And
It
especially
is.
because Aries is related to, war and conflict. Like people are gonna fight you on your shit. So like
Oh
you
yeah.
can you can spend that time fighting or you can spend that time self-developing because I think on the plus side of Aries, it's a sign of self. So stick to yourself. But when we all stick to ourselves and with group, like the more you're yourself among others and others can be themselves around you, then that's when you have community. It's not just that Pisces appealing to the group. It's going like, I can be me, full feet on the ground and not have to be, not necessarily have the acceptance of the masses because I don't even know if we all want the acceptance of the masses right now
Do
because
we
it's
all
kind
want
of
to be in community like that? No, because
like,
we need to like
yeah. Well, we're
like
both earth signs. I saw some like meme it was like a Megan the Stallion reaction meme where it's like, hey, I invited you to this and now you start inviting all these groups. Now I'm not going. Like, now, like, hey,
it's time to find your people.
and set this like individual intention. And I think you mentioned this off mic when we were just starting to gear up is the anti-intellectualism that has shown during this Neptune Pisces. I was looking at the dates. Neptune and Pisces during that period of April 2011 to August 2011, that was I graduated college, May 2011. So I'm like,
Same.
okay, interesting. Where's Pisces? What's your rising? Are you Cap rising to or Aquarius rising?
Aquarius.
Okay, I remember you had so much Saturn. I was like, so
Buku.
where's Pisces is your then it's your second house?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. I was just curious. So that's why it's so very like literal for me because it's on my ninth house with like which is like literal
Mm.
college and the future and education and whatever. But it's I think we're the same age, our generation of like millennial folks who are getting a lot of great press this week. I saw we're like millennials are
Really?
great. Well, I
Finally.
mean, Gen Z is a bit conservative, as we've talked about with
Right. They are conservative af. Because I remember actually when I was a
making a
senior,
generalization, but we are seeing some
yeah,
trends reporting a little more conservative.
more conservative. Because I was really, when I was in college, like people were talking about like queer theory, and it
My
wasn't
God.
just label
Hmm.
of queer, it was like interrogating economics, politics, social policy, social norms. And I
Hmm.
was really into reading bell hooks, the think pieces on Medium. I feel like that sharing culture of the think pieces and stuff just ended. And I think that
Yeah.
was, yeah, I do think we are moving into definitely a period of just anti-intellectualism. Like why people don't really read books, it feels like, all this video. Like when we were in college, even the video quality was not that good. Because I remember
No.
I actually sharpened my twerking skills from the sisters. They were like in Atlanta, but the
Yeah.
video quality was horrible. But we didn't have like video to distract us like that necessarily. We had video games and stuff, but I do feel like, yeah, we're just moving into an era of, yeah, anti-intellectualism. Maybe it's because of the breakdown of the high schools also,
Well, and
second.
two, I know like my brother is 4 years younger than me. So he's like technically a millennial, but like almost getting Gen Z-ish. And I just remember him and his group of friends, and a lot of people are also this first wave of folks who are like, college is a waste of money.
That is so true.
I can't afford to go to school. I'm not going to have
Mhm.
student loans. And I think maybe this conservative swing to Gen Z people, and
Yes.
again, if you're like a non-conservative Gen Z, it's the same thing when I say men are trash. Like if you're not trash, I'm not talking about you. Like if I'm not,
Exactly.
if I'm saying you're a Gen Z conservative, if you're not, I'm not talking about you.
Yeah, get over it.
So to clarify, period. But so with like with this swing, I think a lot of Gen Z saw the air quotes mistakes of millennials, where we're all like working paycheck to paycheck. A lot of us were the generation of unpaid internships, which was crazy, and then also like,
Getting
I
hella
mean, I
degrees.
remember my first day of college. This was 2007 when Neptune was in Aquarius. There was like credit cards you could sign up for as soon as you
Right.
walked
You could get
in.
loans. You could
It
get
was
loans out
it
the
was bizarre. I mean, now it's illegal, but like at the time,
yeah.
it was not weird for all of us to just be like, throw it on the debt pile. And
Yeah.
I'm still dealing with that to this date. And that's so it goes. America is a cycle of debt,
Mhm.
as we have you not learned? Like we didn't even hear
It
about the
got so expensive over because I worked as a college advisor, but when I went to college around the time that we did, I
yeah.
got an Ivy League education. Like I am very smart, but it cost $2,000 a semester for me to go to college.
Yeah.
I went for free. Like when we were younger, when we went to college, it was people had debt, but it was easier to go to more expensive schools because there were so many scholarship programs.
And I think too, a lot of folks like it depends on what type of loans you had. Like for anyone
True.
who just had
That
regular
hurt.
public loans, like they suck, but they're
Yeah.
manageable. The private loan folks, that's a whole different beast
Ooh.
that they're dealing still, and a lot of them still dealing with an insurmountable amount. But the the message I'm coming back to is like, we were told what a waste you just did, what a waste of time and money, and it was just looked at as this mistake. And I'm a huge like loud mouth about how untrue that was, because first of all, I got me out of my predominantly white town to meet other people and talk to them,
Mhm.
because that's like,
International people.
yeah. And my school at University of Illinois Chicago is one of the most diverse schools in the
Super
country,
diverse.
like and everybody. And and I grew up in the Chicago suburbs, so like, and that's a huge white
That
flight.
can be.
Yeah, I mean, my town growing up on Wikipedia was nicknamed White Castle. So,
Where did you go? Where did you grow up?
Mount Prospect, Illinois. It's like
Oh, I
next,
know where that
yeah,
is.
it's like next to O'Hare Airport.
Yeah, I know where that is.
It's actually becoming much more diverse, which, I'm sure some people in the town don't like, and that's their, well,
Hmm.
welcome to when you
But
make.
that's economics
That's
too.
economics, honey. The suburbs and cities are always in a constant flow of, oh
Plus.
God, I'm scared of you and it's expensive. Gonna come here. Oh wait, everyone who is also
Mhm.
scared and of the expenses and the people there are all now here, and then we all go back, and
Mhm.
I'm doing
And
like
it's also it's
I'm
like
doing
the
a
housing
motion.
loans with the
Yeah.
with the education loans, that was the time when people were getting hella housing loans, and it kind of
Oh
just
my God. I know. Just a whole man, that's funny now thinking of the Neptune and Aquarius of like it being not happy in that position. And yeah, none of that was sustainable. And not that
at
the
all.
Pisces stuff was that sustainable. Is any of this sustainable? Is the real thing we're gonna is the real thing we're gonna find out. But I think college is, first of all, a chance to do something different, to study something you enjoy, to meet people. And yeah, like I've worked a little, I got a degree in photography and I worked in it for a little bit. But man, like I use so many of those skills now, especially making art for my astrology things and working with the imagery. I mean, I also, people know this if you've had a reading with me, when I pull up the chart and it looks intimidating, I failed geometry twice. If I can do this shit, anyone can do it, like straight up. Like I shouldn't know how to do this, but if you sometimes also you're in the right time to learn and discover and see. So, do I think we'll all of a sudden have this intellectualism? No, I don't. I think there could be in a way, if as long, especially if community colleges keep becoming more free and accessible, which I know more states are doing.
Trade schools.
And I know a lot of things that we've also talked about just in acknowledgement are definitely a US base. If you're also an international listener, I don't know, I'm just reporting on where I'm from and what I'm seeing and what's in front of us. So again, in a
Oh yeah.
global sense, how that will look, I don't know. I mean, I think we also are starting to see people in that self Neptune Aries preservation. There are a lot of countries. I think the brain drain and the migration related around brain
Mhm.
drain from the US and abroad is going to be, I mean, we are really decentralizing, even first of all, the country, because we're now living very state by state, which,
Mhm.
last time we had Neptune and
It feels like
Aries.
it's different federations. At some point, it's like, what in the world?
Well, yeah, I mean, last time we had Neptune and Aries was the Civil War, and it's not going to
Ew.
be the exact same because,
And
like,
oh yeah, I wanted to also say like the skills that we learned, I think we learned how to view the world in like a larger sense, you know what I mean?
yeah, college
Without
does
all
do
these
that.
distractions. So we learned we were trained to go through a certain like thinking process that really does actually like benefit us now because I think that we understand how to make plans. Not everybody, of course, but we
Yes.
understand how to like, take a situation, break it down, and then
Hmm.
create a plan around it in terms of us. Like, I think this new era that we're moving into, people who cannot strategize are going to be disadvantaged. Like, because
Oh, you're
so
brilliant.
much random stuff. It's like if you don't know how to create a strategy around anything, that
Hmm.
you're, you know what I mean? So if you just sit here, just like with the election that just happened, if I sat here and I was just like, oh my God, I don't have any options. I'm like, no, I speak three languages. I know people, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know how to organize. I know how to be in real life with people and develop like, relationships. So
I know how to be in real life. So
I know how to be in real life. I don't get anxiety from, I mean, I get social
yeah.
anxiety, but I know how to make friends. So that is a thing that we really got to take advantage of that. And I do think college gives you that kind of training to be around people. I was doing also charcuterie parties with my white friends. Like, yeah, I am an expert
Um,
at charcuterie, but I was doing so much just different stuff. Like I had black friends, like international friends. It was just a way of cultivating community that I do now just like naturally. But it's
hmm.
become that's why we have this whole cult of like loneliness. Everyone's
Hmm.
talking about I'm lonely, and I'm like, girl, I'm not lonely because I know how to cultivate community. Like I know how to reach out to my people. I have friends,
Yeah.
we've been friends for like 4 years. So
Hmm.
we know how to check in and just be like, hey girl, oh my God, this happened.
Yeah.
Doesn't
Well, and also it's okay to pick it up where you left off. Maybe
exactly.
it's my like 11th housey energy as well, which is the place of community and friendships.
Hmm.
Like if you're my friend, you're my friend. Even if I
Yeah, it
haven't
doesn't
talked to
matter
you,
if a year passes by.
if I haven't talked to you in 4 years, 3 years, whatever, like, if we're cool, we're cool. And if you need something, as long again, it comes back to that. I love this strategizing, just thinking also in terms, I think that's gonna be really loud with Neptune and Aries related to Martian energy because Mars is the that soldier, right? That is like, you can't just go in blindly to a battle and whatever it is, especially if the battle is just getting more real with yourself. And I think we're all going to have to
Mhm.
get a lot more real with ourselves and who we are in the world too. And the same thing, you know, if you're sitting there waiting for life to happen, it ain't. It never does. I
It's
mean, it will
happening
happen,
to
and it usually
you.
will in like the worst of ways. I think too, and this is like a lot of decisions I had to make this year that are going to go into next year as well. And that's going to be the cardinal Aries energy. Like you got to just start, and it might not be the thing
Mhm.
you do forever. It's okay. Have you? Me and Cats are going now like old grannies right now. Like what we lived 60 lives from just since Neptune and
It's
Pisces started.
scary. But you just got to work through the shit and just start.
But it all was so to me, or at least for me, it felt very natural. Like maybe
I
that's the
mean, I
Pisces
started my
energy.
podcast after the 2 days after the pandemic, but I kind of like am the kind of person I just go into like I love creating. So
Yeah,
I'm DJing now. Like
I
I
love your DJing.
creating and I love like just being in the times and responding, to the times with
Well, I
whatever.
think that made me think of a date that I had on here for Neptune and
Oh,
Pisces, which was on April 3rd, 2012. So we're 1 month back into Neptune and Pisces, where it's been since now, with no retrogrades back into any sign, was on April 3rd, 2012. That's when Instagram released the app for Android. And that was when it
oh.
exploded, basically. That's when they got more than a million downloads, I think, in the day. And from 2012 to now, which has really been a Neptune and Pisces era defined by Instagram in many ways, like from
Mhm.
businesses to spiritualism to whatever, and it used to be a place you would instantly Instagram post your days. Now we're all like in curated dumps of, whatever, like that has definitely flowed and changed, but also in terms of our connectivity and how we make an altar of ourselves has been like the first time that we've had this option. So just
And
I
we're
don't know I can't remember what you just said, but it made me think. I'm like, wait, this making me just think of like
wow.
we have to just acknowledge the rise of Instagram when Neptune is in because
Yes.
that and what will come next, what will be, I mean, I guess we also had the rise of TikTok also in this time period, and basically a lot of social
And the
media.
BBLs.
Okay, we got to get to
Or
your BBLs
Instagram,
because
sorry.
I
Sorry.
think it's also well, it goes into all of this because I
Instagram
think
models.
yeah, because Neptune does wrap in style and adornment because it is connected to that Venusian energy. I don't know where the hell I heard it. So if there's anyone's got the quote, holler. But Neptune being the higher octave of Venus, and I really do think like if you can think
Mhm.
about it, like Venus on steroids, Venus times 100, and also the image that's projected out to like a really really wide audience because the personal planets are day to day guys. They're
Mm.
really influencing the mood where this is going to be influencing like the bigger societal picture. But yeah, I mean, we saw in the beginning of Neptune and Pisces that, we're still coming off like this sort of like heroin chic indie sleaze. Honestly, we're all just broke from the
Harley
recession. So we're eating ramen
Kardashian.
packets. Yeah. And
Mm.
then the beginning too of like reality TV launched before that, but where it became this very accepted nonstop sort of, whatever. But then, yeah, going into, I mean, what year was like BBLs? I mean, when I was texting Keyoncé about like doing this episode, we got on deep on BBLs and like they came and went in this like Neptune and
Yeah.
Pisces era.
It's true, yeah, and I think and it happened with Instagram because I remember like Alexis Sky was one of the first Instagram influencer models, and
Mhm.
what's her name? I forgot the Kim Kardashian sister.
Oh my God, Kylie, Chloe.
Kylie.
Okay,
They kind of like, appropriated that style. But
right.
Alexis Guy, there were these black women online who, were getting these kinds of BBLs, but also it here in Atlanta, I live in Atlanta.
Yeah.
That a certain cultural trend that gave you access to a quote unquote particular kind of lifestyle. So that is why people started doing it with the trend. But it's very interesting, yeah, as we move into these more conservative times and we move into less curation on Instagram and people prefer the random, TikToks, we're moving back into the pixie cut, skin
Hmm.
model, like, Kate Moss era. But I think that also it does correlate with where we are economically. Like we
Right.
living in there's a lot of uncertainty. Like I remember BBL era, I felt like, I don't know, there was just so much opportunity, like
Yeah.
more things to, I guess, like aspire to in terms of the future. Because I mean, Gen Z is kind of hit with a lot of stuff. I mean, we were hit with a lot, but Gen Z is hit with a lot,
And
a
is
lot.
is that just how history goes, where we're like, yeah, ours did suck, but damn, it keeps getting suckier
It just,
somehow
yeah,
for
it's
you,
like this
for
cycle
everybody.
though. Like,
So, and if you don't know, BBLs,
oh yeah,
Brazilian butt lifts. I'm sorry,
yes.
Mercury Gemini. So I'm always gonna.
We need to explain that, of
I was
course.
like, for anyone who's like, what the fuck are y'all talking about? If you've been in a head in the sand, head under a rock, Brazilian butt lifts. So I did ask, and this is a new invention that has come out, or maybe it wasn't new but got modified. I asked ChatGPT because that's
Mm,
also the future we're seeing, which
yes.
has so much handiness for things like this,
I pay
which
for
also
it.
can have misinformation as well.
Yes.
But anyways, Brazilian butt lifts gained immense, this is from ChatGPT, gained immense popularity in the early 2010s, particularly 2015 to 2016. During this time, social media played a significant role promoting the procedure, with many celebrities showcasing the results. And it grew, was at peak popularity 2015, 2016. That's interesting. It feels a little earlier than I would have thought, but that's probably when that's when I think a lot of people were doing it without saying it.
Mm.
Where
It was
then,
more underground too.
exactly. And that
Well,
was like
not
once
underground, but it was a subculture
well, it's like
more.
when celebs were getting it without saying it. And then I always think of like, I feel like maybe it was like 2021 was when like the pedestrians started getting it. And, this is when I always jokingly call, the regular population pedestrian. Someone said that years ago. I always think it's such like a bitchy way to talk about like regular people. The
Gen
pedestrians,
Pop. The
yeah,
Gen Pop got it.
the Gen Pop got it. And Gen Pop's a good one too. Yeah, and like I think that's the other thing too is celebrities don't want you guys to be anything like
Can't be
them.
accessible.
So, but I think we are going to see, especially Aries is so raw, and we think of Aries as the
Mhm.
baby of the zodiac, and has this purity. I always describe Aries energy as like goldfish brain, for better or worse. Like they kind of
Mhm.
only care about what's in front of them, and they forgot about what you were
Yes.
talking about besides that. Like they don't really hold grudges because they just feel what they're feeling in the moment. And I think from both economics and style and what's in trend, and the fact that we're seeing saw this huge rise in cosmetic work during Neptune and Pisces, and accessibility. And, Gen Z is not liking everyone making fun of them online, calling them old looking because they got filler really, really, really young. And, and I get Bobo, like I'm,
Yeah.
a human being. Like it's, I gotta prevent my like Sharpay forehead from exploding, and do what you ever want to do. It's no shame.
Exploding.
Exploding like it. I just always had a very mushy forehead, even as a child. So it's
Mm.
not even like an aging thing. It's like, I don't know, some ancient Russians just bestowed upon me this wrinkled ass forehead. So I gotta do what I gotta do. And I'm Aries moon, so the forehead is very prominent. But
Oh.
you know, when it's like when you
Oh
see
my
Rihanna, you're like,
God.
that's an Aries. I know she's Pisces, but that's an Aries woman because that's the forehead of an Aries person. Aries are related to the head. And I think that's another, I'm gonna pin that because I think that's another interesting thing to maybe think about in terms of the body parts. Pisces rules the feet. And in theory, this sort of grounded nature, but it's also this wet grounded nature. And I feel like even like making money off feet pics sort of exploded in
Oh my
Neptune
God.
and Pisces. And I wonder if there's something with Neptune and Aries obscuring the face. Like we're seeing a lot more people be like, hey, you can be an influencer faceless if you don't want it to relate to your, who you are in your real life. Like you can do faceless content. I don't know if you see these ads um, of like folks being like, yeah, be an influencer, but you don't never have to show yourself. And I think that I'm curious. I think Neptune and Pisces, or excuse me, Neptune and Aries might go one way or another. And I think that's astrology in general. It's like, okay, are we going to see so much front facing face action, or also the fact that maybe social media, you'll now have to associate that with your driver's license or a social security number, or like, hey, actually, we are putting an identity on your social media. And like, this is you, no anonymity, or the reverse, where people just go fully like that Neptune, like, no, you'll never get my face and you'll never know who this account is. And I know we already have that to some degree, but I feel
Yes.
I hear a lot of folks, I think nowadays being like, it's kind of embarrassing to post. Like, I don't really want to show myself and like, or whatever. Like, there's a little more of that
And there's the
backlash.
rise of the AI commentary and videos,
Mm-hmm.
especially in like the gossip space. There's the rise of people just showing like videos and then like an AI voice that's like doing the commentary. Whereas like
Mm-hmm.
it was, I guess people before, would be on camera, like, hey, I'm talking, da 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 da. But yeah,
Right.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think how we are seen and perceived is already, I mean, we've already hit like not the end of the internet, but it's like, okay, this isn't this new tool. That's why I always think it's funny on dating shows where they're like modern dating with these newfangled dating apps. It's like dating apps have been around since like for like 30
Yeah.
fucking years now. So like we have to stop acting like the
It's like the
internet's
newspaper ads. That's like an evolution of the newspaper ad.
totally acting like the internet is this new thing is I think will go away and we do and maybe that would be a cool Neptune and Aries finger cross prediction. Maybe internet as a public tool and resource of like getting real of like, hey, yeah, this needs to be everywhere for everybody at all times. I'm maybe not right away in Neptune and Aries, but again, this is going to be a 14-year transit. This is not just the day this happens in 2026, right? Where
Privatization might happen more.
well, or the, I mean, that's the astrology flip. It's like same with like Pluto and Aquarius, which we can talk about in another episode deeper, but it's just like, yeah, will this all be flipped into this? Obviously, this should be free and for all, or on the like greedier flip side of like, no, 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 pay and pay more. I mean,
Mm,
eventually people will hit a wall. And I do think, while looking back at this time period and having the big signal for the United States be the Civil War, you know, uh it had to happen. So like sometimes some things that are uncomfortable do have to happen. And I think that those wars, like we're already in I've never lived not in a state of war. So I mean,
oh yeah. It
so
just hasn't really been on our soil.
right. That's the interesting part. And also in this new Neptune era of like how much will really be on this soil versus like technological and
Hmm.
and
They say
droney.
it's more technological. Not like I'm trying to fear monger or anything like
No,
that.
no,
But that is, I actually shout out to Lovely T. She's like one of my favorite vloggers, but she talks about how the next wars, they're going to be information wars. That's the reason. Like I remember like back in 2021 when I was getting my license, well, it was 2020, the driver's license place got hacked and all these other places got hacked. And there's these hacking attacks that have been happening more. That is more of what the wars are going to be like, affecting
hmm
people, because the banks have been having more cyber attacks. So that is the reason. I mean, we're kind of moving into this era of like, hackers. I mean, I think
right.
I feel like also, I feel like this is kind of like a ting I'm getting from Spirit. We are going to need to see what happens with groups like Anonymous because they're going to be very
Mm,
important moving forward. I think, especially in movements to expose leaders. Because I don't know if
hmm
this is just kind of like an aside, kind of
Yeah.
like a little
Oh
bit, but
no, we're just going. I mean, it's especially Pisces. It's like whatever's bubbling up,
okay.
let it bub.
Not to demonize people. Well, not to make this too much about the election, but there is this thing happening on Twitter where people who are like, yeah, I voted for Trump, fuck women, I don't like
Right.
gay people. The trans people are calling them out and they got receipts like, you were here at this hotel, look at this text message, and you asked
Mm-hmm.
at 2:30 in the morning. So I think that kind of stuff, that kind of, calling people out is going to be more of a thing that happens with anonymous, but on a deeper level. Like, because I don't think that the thing of calling people out on their sexual, abuse in the past is going to stop. I think it's
No.
just another strategic thing that people use. Because also, I've been reading a lot of Adrienne Marie Brown, like emergent
Mhm.
strategy, and she had this article that came out about 10 ways to prepare now that Trump has gotten elected. Because I'm in strategize mode, and one of the ways is like people kind of using information a certain way. Um, yeah, just using it strategically. Yeah.
Well, and Neptune and Aries at this kind of sneak peek, which we're going to have a big chunk next year, is Aries is related to the truth. Aries is a very blunt, very
Like
like,
weaponizing the information and a strategic way to where it's like you
mhm,
embarrass these people and call them out. You know what I mean? It's like,
mhm.
oh, so you're talking about Trump, but then Trump, I don't even like saying his name.
I know
I like
it's
saying
vile.
45, but now it's like in 47. But it's like, oh,
Yeah.
so you're going to be calling us out. Well, we're going to call you out. So I do think it'll be interesting to see what happens with Anonymous. And I do think maybe I'm kind of trying to signal to people if you are into that kind of stuff, get into it. We need
Hmm.
more Anonymous.
Yeah. Put like wipe the student debt and,
Wipe
crank
out
them.
this, yes,
Let's
wipe out
hack in
the
a cool way, like in a cool, like,
please. Why can't they attack the school debt? That's how
mhm.
you get back at these billionaires.
Yeah. I was just looking through my notes to make sure I'm not missing anything, but a note that came up that I think we already touched on, but it bears repeating. I think, and I said this when Saturn moved into Pisces. You can look at the What's Your Sign episode about this. The return of gatekeeping. I think we're going to just see also,
Mm,
folks, with over tourism as well, those places that were once magic aren't because you don't want to go to why would you go to a place to just be around a bunch of Americans? That sounds like
a
hell.
resort.
Yeah, that's already sounds like a resort. That sounds like this. And so I think I'm curious if and we're already going to see that we're seeing now that Americans are going to need a visa to go to the EU starting in 2025. And also, yeah, it was supposed to start this year, but they were like, no one's ready. So they moved it to
Oh, wow.
2025. And this is, again, double check because they have moved the dates a few times. It's the same thing with like the real IDs here in the US. It's like they moved it a
Mhm.
few times because they realized no one was ready. And then two, I always don't know how to pronounce this, but in Europe, there's the Schengen area, the Schengen, and it's like a certain amount of countries. So before, you used to be able to stay, and you could be in Spain for 180 days. Well, I'll just go to France now for 180 days. Now it's the 180 days total for the Schengen area, which is most
Oh,
European countries, because these little digital nomads have been doing a lot of tax evasion. Because truthfully, they go
yeah.
like we have a change in this decentralized workforce, and they want to go basically do colonization, go to these other
That
places,
is, it messes up the local economies.
messing up those local economies. So I think we are going to see in a very Aries territorial, the guard, right? A lot more regulation around these nomadic Pisces dissolved. I'm just part of the computer, folks,
Mm.
because it does have
Well,
real life.
yeah,
And
you need a visa to regulate that.
yeah, you'll get a visa, you'll pay into the taxes or whatever it is. And then some countries really want folks like that. And some countries are
South
like, we're
Africa.
full.
South Africa just passed the digital nomad visa because I'm looking at many different countries. I've even talked to my mom. I'm like, girl, if it get
Mhm.
bad enough, are you ready to go? And she's like, hell yeah. So I'm like,
Yeah.
let's go, vamos, yeah. But
Yeah.
I was looking at South Africa because I was looking at just like the top 10 countries for Black people to live in,
Yeah.
Panama. But I mean, it does make sense because governments have to install a visa to regulate taxes because otherwise it's like they can't use those taxes to help out the actual citizens. So it's like if people are just going, because businesses are going to like respond to the demand. So if the demand is that there's all these digital nomads moving and they want to pay 1,600 when the baseline cost was 800 before, the business is going to start building stuff for the $1,600 people. But I think
Exactly.
it's cool that the government is stepping in to develop a visa program so that it does help kind of at least protect the citizens if they're using the money the right way. So
Yeah, and boost some economies. And on the flip, on a more domestic level, I think the Neptune and Aries energy will also reveal, since folks are really going to have to prioritize now more than ever, like, okay, like what is it that will give me this happiest, brightest life? I mean, we're seeing folks in states with tough abortion or no abortion or whatever laws aren't studying medicine there. And they're seeing the drain of folks electing to, like, the shortage of folks being able to serve others, especially in terms of their body and health, with which
mhm.
Aries doesn't really get connected to health, but I do think it is in a very simple context who we are. And coming back to mental health, the Aries being our head too, and like those,
Mhm.
like we're seeing folks are too afraid that they'll get arrested for the health services they're providing. So I think
Mhm.
that's gonna, I think just
Migration.
the migration of self to of protection to not be fucking fucked with by police like people.
Yes.
And oh my god, I'm back to the election. I know we're like
No,
jumping
we need to talk about it though. We need
it was just, it just happened. So it feels
yeah,
very,
we're processing a
but I
lot.
was thinking, like, I've been talking to some friends about it, and like, bro, anyone can join MAGA. They are not pick
Anybody.
anybody.
Amber Rose, Ray J.
It is an open, I don't know if I want to say accepting, but if you're one of their members, it's
If you're an if you're dumb enough to go over there, you know, I just
But why did liberal people, the policing for who can join in more liberal progressive spaces has gotten extremely strong these last few
okay.
years? Yeah.
I got a message about white people the other day. Because, I grew up in the country. I grew up around very wealthy white people and then country white people. I do
Uh-huh.
think a breakdown that happened with white people is a lot of white people chose to move to cities and forget their country family members. So it was like,
Mhm.
oh, I live in New York now. I'm exposed to this, this, and this. Of course, not like no one's perfect, but I do
Right.
think just seeing what I saw as far as visiting home and seeing my white friends and then seeing my white friends in Chicago, like you. Like,
Yes.
and
And
more
I got
people
some,
like got to
I have,
educate
yeah, I have some
it.
metropolitan white family, and I have some bumpkin white family myself. Like, so,
Exactly. And it is hard, but I do think that is kind of something that shows in the way that the election turned out in terms of the lack of voting and is the lack of conversation with the difficult conversations. Because I mean, it's hard enough being around family members. Like, I don't really, it's part of my family, like, I guess I wasn't really in contact with because I'm queer. So, like,
yeah,
kind of like they're not really like,
they're not in
but
that.
I do think that is kind of like a breakdown that definitely happened with like, I guess like white people,
Hmm.
like, because it's not like white people brought back the world that they were seeing to like North Dakota or
Hmm.
South Dakota. And that's not excusing it, but it's just kind of like I was just thinking about like what is going on? Because I know a
Yeah,
lot of white people are like, "Oh my God, I cannot believe this."
I
But it's kind of like,
know.
dang,
I
like
can.
the hope bracelets and stuff. It's like, well, it kind of happened because not like it's your responsibility, but it's it would work more effectively for a white person to talk to another white person than for me to just be the only black person and be like, oh yeah, you're the only black person I know. Tell me everything about black people. So
Well, and I mean, it wasn't like, no, we can or cannot go there, but like 2020, for the amount of both
oh my God.
labor and I don't even, God, like, what are the right words? And they don't have to be right. Like, they just can, and maybe that was it. Like, it's all of a sudden, I mean, I don't know. White people just say things really strongly and make it about themselves. And it's just a lot to, and I'm not going to be a white person there that's like, but not me, like,
Yeah.
because I don't know. I try to be self aware as best as one can. And we're all, everyone should be learning. But this is when I come back to my original point of like MAGA accepts in anyone, white people, and this fear of canceling and this fear of it, like, I must now, like, now I ordered all these books by black authors that I haven't read, and doing all this performative action.
Performative.
I think the key word that I've found now, speaking it out loud, the performativeness, and even now post election, seeing, get involved, And they're like, but with doing what? Like, what are you guys gonna get involved? Like, get in your community. You don't even have community. You don't even speak to your neighbor. Like, but get what is the and of course, like the election results, resounding white support for Trump, but also there's a it's not 100% of the support for Trump too. So only acting like it's these uneducated white people when it's actually a lot of college educated
It's a
white
lot of
people.
people,
It's just
rich
a lot of people.
people,
It's just a lot of people.
Elon Musk.
Yes. So I think in a positive way, I think hopefully there will be that dissolvement of the performativeness. And even we see this with trends in media. Like the last time we had a Trump presidency, we saw all of a sudden this body positivity. Oh my God, the campaigns are now going to have all these different looking people. And also, okay, now we have Queer Eye reboot. And then we have Marie Kondo because it's peaceful. We're all
Oh,
peaceful. We're all cleaning our houses. Like everything is fine. And I think it's great to have different representation in media, but so much of it, and I think a lot of things, a lot of at least people, liberal leftist people in my circle felt like this just feels performative and that's it. Same
right.
thing. I mean, I've seen this on Twitter, which fuck Elon Musk, obviously, but it's still funny over there. So that's why I'm there. But my
Feels
accounts are
the
just too
same.
good. But when Trump and I've heard this from a lot of my friends who work in entertainment who are, black or Latino writers, like, wow, we got a bunch of like deals and meetings during the Trump presidency, but where the fuck are our shows? Like nothing got made. They did all the actions of like, okay, sign all these black writers, sign all these Latino writers, sign all these Asian
Black Lives
writers.
Matter.
And then they didn't like it mattered to them to make them look good. And then it didn't
Mhm.
matter a step beyond where real making these lives matter is giving fucking inviting everyone into giving them the economic
Paying
mattering.
people.
It's paying people. Let
Exactly.
so I think but I don't think we're gonna see that swing in Neptune Aries. I don't think we're gonna see that fake virtue signaling of like, okay, times are so hard. I'm feeling it. Like now we got to do like no. I mean, they never wanted to do that. Period. Like they just did it because it was on trend. It was the trend, and I think, yeah. I mean, I think a lot of Neptune Aries is going to be very brutally honest, but I think some things that we need to get brutally honest with ourselves. Even we were DMing about this or texting about this. Pisces and Neptune in general, because Neptune is a Pisces sign, etc. It can be about avoiding reality from both our
Mhm.
farming practices to now fashion. Because I'll tell you what, thrifting era, back when Neptune first went into Pisces, was out of necessity. It was because you're broke. And now I like get so mad when people shit on anyone who shops on Amazon. But honey, like that's the thrift store nowadays.
That is the new thrift store, definitely.
That's the new thrift store. And do I agree that that should be the way it is? No, I think that that sucks. But like you got like so many like psycho ass vintage Depop vultures are in the
Mhm.
bins taking all the things and reselling and flipping. So I'm curious if there is going to be that pushback on this. Like, oh my God, I put a tweet in my notes that I should send to, maybe I'll just screen share it so folks can see. Okay, I'm gonna just like freaking screen share. Let's see. Okay, it's coming, I promise. Let's see. Okay. Okay. Oh, and we haven't, maybe this will be one of our finale things, unless we're good with time, but we can go from wherever.
I'm
But
chilling.
the great. We're like, let's see how long we can podcast. 6, 7 hours.
I'm chilling. I am chilling.
It's now night. I need dinner. But this tweet that I'm screen sharing it is from. It says
You trip me out.
there's
God,
this. We can be a Guinness Book record, like the fingernail people, but instead it's just for long
girl.
you can podcast. Also, that gives me pause. That gives me a thought of like when
Can I
people
tell you that lives rent free in my head? The nails.
the nails, they're
Anytime
there.
you say Guinness Book of Records, I think about the nails.
That should be a good that would be a cute Halloween costume. The Guinness Book nails and just attach like ribbons, like long tape ribbons. Writing that
Black,
down. That's going to my Halloween
brown, and
costume
beige.
phone note. You can borrow that. Anyone listening, please do it all around your towns. So funny. But I'm screen sharing a tweet that I saw that was so verbatim of a lot of the stuff that I've been talking about with my friends, and then I was talking about with Keyoncé of like style used to tell me your values. It used to tell me what you believed in. It used to give me some like, oh, I saw you out in
You're a punk.
2013 Chicago, like dressed cool. You hate George W. Bush as well. You disagreed with the Iraq War. Like we maybe not every single thing, but like I kind of got that idea. And I was telling Beyonce, I was at this bar talking to this girl with these little dainty stick and poke tattoos and her cunt ass bob and her leather jacket. And she's like, oh, who are you voting for? The debate was on. This is the only reason this came up. I would have never known in conversation with her. And I was like, trick question? Like what? Like, like, well, I
Fuck you,
almost thought,
pay.
and isn't this so Neptune and Pisces of it all? I almost thought it was a trick because in my mind, I'm like, this is a fellow liberal. She's tricking, she's asking if I'm not going to vote for Kamala because of Palestine. That was I thought it was
Oh, that makes
which
sense.
isn't that so the rabbit
That's
hole of
another
everything we
layer.
just talked about in many ways. Like, and I was like, trick question. So then I just turned it back. I'm like, wait, who are you voting for? And she's like, Trump. And I was like, I was like, haha, joke. And she was like, no, I have a house in Florida and I care about taxes. And I was like, am I,
Oh,
my instinct test, I said, that's a fucking stupid reason. It was the only thing I said back. And then
watch
I
the
would have loved,
hurricane
I
come
would have
through.
loved a camera on my face of just like, it's like when you're on a date and you find out like that thing that's just like, we're not coming back from that
You're done.
information.
You're done.
And again, this is the debate of now, like, we can't cut off people. We can't do this. I'm like, no, I can.
No.
I can.
Right. Like literally, people have like feti dying in their bodies. Like not to trigger anybody, but it's like that. There's real things
There's real
happening.
life
Like
consequences.
even before the election, that stuff it affects people. You know what
Sorry,
I mean?
I'm a Taurus ruled by real Venus rule, like a Venus person, Taurus sun conjunct Venus. My values, the things I care about are like beyond. And I
Yeah, that's
like it's
just
just a no for me, dog.
for your
But
taxes, great.
I have
But
this screenshot up of there's this person putting, and please don't, you don't have to go out and attack anybody. Like I don't know this woman who's posting this bag. Who
yeah, we
cares?
do not condone bullying.
No bullying. Oh my God. No mean girls. Like it says there's this lady on TikTok who's selling white girl Ita bags, which I don't even know, which are $95. And like they have all these punk, like these buttons and shit on it if you're watching on video. And then this repost. God, I don't know any of these accounts, whatever.
Wow.
But the commodification of punk signals that Gen Z is unfortunately more interested in aesthetics than rather than truly engaging with the world around them. You're supposed to thrift your bag, gather pins by supporting local bands, art collectors, or making them yourself. And again, I made these buttons, well, not these ones, but like I worked at a button factory as we
Mhm.
talked about earlier in the episode. And yeah, we're making buttons for bands and for whatever, like anything that needed buttons, funny sayings. But like, yeah, buying this, I mean, I remember it was kind of tacky to buy ripped jeans because it's like you should have naturally had them ripped from being out and being a
From
punk.
being in a mosh pit.
Right. And
Or
now,
like,
like,
just being out
or
skateboarding.
something. Right. Like,
Skate
yeah,
with the vans, like,
you,
yeah, just you should be like, it just be like rip your jeans because you've been skateboarding like
and I think I wonder, and I kind of hope that Neptune in Aries is that fashion and style does represent your values and the fact that like being so readily and easily available to buy looking cool, like that you can just look. And now when I go out in LA, and I don't, again, I don't want to like shit on women and whatever, but I will for a second. Like, it's not about women, it's about style and it's about this cloning. Like, I just go out and I see the same
mhm.
person over and over. And it just makes me a little, again, I'm an Aries moon. This Neptune shit's going to be right on my 2 degrees Aries moon, my 0 degrees Aries midheaven for a minute, which I'm intrigued to see what that feels like. But well, Neptune's already there, so whatever. But individual style. I'm ready for individual
I
style to
think we're
return.
moving back to that, to be
I think
honest.
so.
I feel like we're moving to where it's just a breakdown of all of it. And then, yeah, because as you mentioned that I was kind of processing, I was like, oh, wow, that does make sense. Because part of that did happen because of Instagram, the curation of identity. And then we start seeing these like, oh, this is a template for you to look this, even Tumblr. You remember it was like, because I
Oh,
remember
I
like
know.
there was like blipsters, like because I consider myself like a black hipster back in the day, like so I was like, oh my God, what are they wearing? Like
Blip.
Coco and Breezy. So it was so funny. That was back before they became DJs and stuff like that, and like
Mhm.
super big. It was like right before they moved like from Wisconsin to New York. So it was funny. Like I remember Tumblr having like those templates for the big flannel shirts and the skinny jeans and then the
Of
big boots.
course.
And just like you're like, yeah, like that was
Mhm.
totally all of college. But I do think we are moving. Oh, I think it kind of like got to be too much. And I think now we are moving towards that with TikTok. But I do think with TikTok, I did see this Generation Z person complaining about how there's too many typologies now. So I think
Mm.
I think it'll happen after there's an oversaturation of that. Because there's so many cores these days.
So
Like
many cores.
core, this kind of core, this kind of core, this get like messy room core. Like just it's like there's so many different types.
You just made me think of something where there's been this because Pisces is relating to dissolving. And there was a lot of dissolving in terms of a lot of conversations we had around gender, but also in relationships with like polyamory and like non-traditional,
Mm.
non-monogamous relationships. But then while we dissolved many labels, then there was this surge in TikTok, but now I'm messy room core. And it was like, wait, it's a return to labels, but it's so I'm not like
Trying to be
advocating.
individualistic.
Right. I'm not saying like, oh, we should have kept labels of gender and relationships. Like, I'm not like a cop. Like, I don't like, I think it's good to question the systems that have always been. But also,
Mhm.
it's interesting how, though, we do want identities, even if we
Yeah.
dissolve other ones. And so
And
you might be like, I'm like, you know, I'm a open, non-binary, like don't label me, which is great. But then it's like, but I'm cottagecore and I'm this core and I'm this. And I don't I
Mhm.
like you just made me think of the
Wow.
labels went to other places, which is
I think yeah. I think
maybe
the
better
structure.
places to go, but also it still went somewhere.
Yeah, I think the structure of like TikTok, like the algorithm and like the way that it prioritizes video, it helped create the context for this proliferation of like everyone feeling like they were the ones to start a trend or like all these
Right.
like micro trends, because Instagram feels more centralized, whereas TikTok as like an app, it does kind of like create the environment for there to be these like separate worlds. So everybody wants to create like a certain kind of core or like a trend. And I think, yeah, just the way that the algorithm is and the way that the app is, you can just continue diving deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. So,
I think
yeah.
I wrote Death of the Micro Trend is part of Neptune and Pisces. And I think we've from 2011 to 2026, it's been this fashion has become this big blur of all these trends at once.
Mhm.
And I know, I mean, I also wrote down about like the maybe not the death of the pop star, but I mean, an absolute change in terms of demystifying the pop star, right?
Oh my
Cracks knuckles, pop
God.
stars. All right, culture. Before we dive deep into Beyonce, only because you're the literal historian. Um, okay. I just had a quick thing. I know we mentioned Chapel as a Charlie XCX fan, as the person that has
I'm a Brat.
survived and thrived and participated in Brat Summer and the Sweat Tour. It's really interesting. And I think we're going to see a lot more pop starlets. And she's already doing it. So we're going to see it all when Neptune moves into Aries. She's like, okay, I made my magnum opus. Time to act. And she's now doing a lot of acting.
Oh, okay.
She's got like four fucking projects in the works. And I think we have been missing on the like share level. Like I act, I dance, I sing. Like where Whitney even like where's the
Mm.
like the triple threats,
Versatility.
the versatility. I think we're bursting the pop star bubble in many ways, especially when it comes to like, of course, paparazzi culture and then Instagram culture where I share everything. And then like, I don't know, like artists used to like go away in caves and create and then come back out and show you like everything
Mhm.
they did. And Charlie, as just an angel, like, which is her fan base. So, like, she showed a lot of the process in making a lot of her albums up till now. but she's a few years younger than us. She's a 32 or 33-year-old. And it's interesting now to see as she gave everyone this sort of, hey, we can all be like little messy. The mass is messy, cigarette smoking, little club rats doing our thing and having some fun. And then I can maybe it's a psychic connection with her. This is where I'm getting really woo. We're both Cancer risings, where I can tell she's like, wow, I just let everybody in on this like clubby brat summer and it was fun. But she earned that. She was doing raves, DJing at raves since
I
she
could
was
tell,
30.
and I could tell the reason I fucked with it because I am a rave. I'm like I I'm not like a party girl now, but I do have a history of I know the parties.
We're
And
both retired party girls who
I
dabble.
was the
It's not
brat, and I was a brat before brat was we are
same.
the yeah,
Hmm.
2011, we were I mean, girl,
We
like
were doing the DANCE 1, 2, 3, 4
and that's why
time.
it caught on so much because it is like she let people in on this like remember that movie? What is it?
24-hour party people.
Was it Party
Party
Boy?
monster.
Party Monster.
Yeah.
She let people in on the because Gen Z does not know about no Party Monster. But if you're a real partier, you know what parties look like and what
Yeah.
she did with like this brat summer. I was like, because I listened to the album like pretty late because it was kind it's like a
Have
little
you
bit
listened
too
to the remixes?
yes.
I love the
Hey,
remix.
Shy Girl.
Oh, I'm obsessed with Shy Girls. So Shy Girl was the opener on the Sweat tour, and she's
I love Shy
fantastic.
Girl. Shy Girl. But yeah, it's like she did let people in. I mean, yeah, she let people in on this kind of thing. And I think it's really cool that she is making it a moment and then switching because
Yes,
she
not
doesn't
just
need,
relying on here's the other new Party
we
Girl
don't need a
album.
trilogy of that brat. We like let it
No,
be and then keep doing you. You know what I mean?
yeah, and I
Wow,
think
that's so
it
interesting.
really felt like a sum up of that Neptune and Pisces era, and that it was all like in us, and it was like she created something. And also, all of her interviews, she's fantastic, and her documentary, Alone Together. Anyways,
Is it on Amazon?
it's on Hulu, I think. It's her
I
making her pandemic album, How I'm Feeling Now, which I love that album. And anyways, I
Oh
do
yeah,
think,
this is when she was cut. This is when she was getting big. I remember this
yeah,
photo on the bed, like with
I
the
do
pink.
think Neptune and Aries might see us all having to earn our party stripes ourselves. And I think that summed up a lot of the accumulation. But back to the gatekeeping, the offline versus online, the back to like the rave culture.
Mm.
Like no one's gonna be. I mean, I think Charlie fed it to like a group of people that were really ready for it, but also too. I mean, at a certain point, the pedestrians, the Gen Pop, does have a cutoff. I mean, concerts, the price of concerts even have just gone so fucking extreme.
Mhm.
And or you could go to a $10 rave and and
Exactly.
have an extremely spiritual, fun experience. So I don't know. I'm a former
That's
raver.
why I started DJing because I
I
could
love
tell.
your okay. I'm gonna link
Because
if you're okay with that. I'll link your DJ stuff too because your mixes are so good.
DJ Keyoncé in the mix, which I'm still learning. It's only been 4 or 5 months, but I will say the reason that I started DJing is because I have like a musical background, period. But I'm seeing a rise in kind of like a backlash against party culture where there's just these phones out, and it's like, let's
Yeah.
just support the DJ. It's like, no, I'm used to partying in Detroit. In Chicago, like I love house music. I'm used to being in the party, and it's like you just make friends with some random person who, is also
Hmm.
partying too.
Yeah.
Then you become friends, then you just make community that way. But I do
Hmm.
think that's why I started like doing music and stuff because I am more interested in like curated events, like curated spaces, like the $10.
Wait, did you
Oh yeah.
hear? I'm sorry,
Oh
but
no,
it's
what?
also going to change the future of partying because the rise in fentanyl did really affect a lot. We can't talk about party culture with a little bit about drug culture as well. And
Hmm.
they're developing, and it could possibly, I don't know when it will be out, but they're developing a fentanyl vaccine.
What?
That's what I read somewhere.
Wow, that is
I
revolutionary.
do think we're gonna see, and maybe it'll be that Aries Mars like breakthroughs and protections,
Wow.
possibly of like the things that made partying scary. Like true, like I didn't ever had to think about that much,
No, you just, yeah, you didn't have
growing up.
that.
But I know that that's a real
You
reality.
gotta
And
be
please
testing
test your
everything.
drugs if you're
You
using.
gotta and carry an EpiPen. I'm a festival girl, so I'm
Mhm.
such a Capricorn. Like I am a den mother. So it does. I am like the person. It does. It's 5 a.m. Come to me if you got something going on.
Yeah, Band-Aid, lollipop, like,
Nasty stuff. Yeah, get the packs. Yeah, get the
Mhm.
stuff. It's easy to get on Amazon.
I wonder if because of the Aries relation to masculinity, if we're gonna see like a boy band
Oh,
resurgence in Neptune and Aries or something. Because we have, and I love it. I feel like we are in a even in rap, of course, in rap music too. Like it's a woman's world, not to quote Katy Perry's flop, but but we really are just in such a time of women music, which is awesome. But like I only say this because of the Aries energy of it all. I'm just very curious if we're gonna see, or maybe even more rock, like boy
Mm.
boy bands, literally in a pop sense, but also like a grungy, like yeah, like rock bands. Like I don't
That would
know,
be interesting.
slight
I
predictions, like slight trend
wow.
report curiosity. You know?
I mean, that's kind of early 2000s trendy kind of stuff too. So I could definitely see that resurgence. I'm really into the girl group Flow.
Oh,
Like they have really like they are amazing.
oh,
And yeah, they're British. And yeah, I don't want to I mean,
oh, they're
they're really
cute.
good. They remind me of Destiny's Child. I'm not even gonna lie. Because my first CD actually was Destiny's Child, Writings on the Wall. Like
Hmm.
my first CD ever. Like when you went and bought
Yeah.
the physical CD, like I tore that CD up. But yeah, they really remind me of them in terms of their harmony, the way that they respect each other, like the camaraderie. So with you
Hmm.
saying that, I could definitely see a boy band also just across the industry. I think, yeah, we are kind of moving into that territory more because I mean, a lot of the independent artists are flopping because they did not do A&R. I feel like Flo does have more artist development than the traditional girl group that I have seen. Like, because they remind me of like, I didn't listen to Danity Kane, but they remind me of like,
Mm,
Danity Kane type stuff. I
right.
mean, hopefully you have to go through all the stuff that Danity Kane went through with Diddler. But
Yeah. Oh God.
um
Now I'm like retracting a little bit only because Aries is so singular and solo. So maybe, I mean, that doesn't mean groups won't exist, but it's interesting that the boy band back in the day was more Neptune and Aquarius, which is about groups and collectives. And then Pisces is like the everything of it all. I wonder if it's even more. I'm gonna like modify or sharpen my like trend report prediction and go like more front man or front woman, like a very like a rock band with like that sort of Freddie Mercury type figure in the
oh
forefront, or
yeah.
like
Like Aretha Franklin when she was in a band, girl band.
yeah, like a there's just like, and a
Yeah.
front person's like that ringleader, like they're telling
Like
you
Diana, what's her Diane Ross before
in the
she was
Supremes.
yeah, the
Yeah,
Supremes.
the demystification of well, if we think of like Neptune and Pisces too, it was this very like avatar era, right? Like we're dropping into our avatars, and now like we know how much of this is presentation, right? Like, of course, like that is culture. I am curious how like what and again, Keyoncé is a Beyonce historian. I don't know if you identify as that, but
Yes,
I do for you.
yes, I do.
And what Beyonce will do, because this, yeah, I mean, coming back to what we talked about in the beginning, Beyonce going country, which I didn't dislike, but the imagery around it was I thought was an interesting choice, and it made me think how we do cater to, and the Dems found this out the hard way. We do cater to a group of people who are like, why are you fucking here? And I don't even like,
Yeah.
why are you trying to win this side? And there's a
Mhm.
lot of Beyonce's country album I wish, and again, who am I to wish this? Whatever. Like, I would have loved to seen some like Tejano influence. I would have liked to see more of her
If it's like
Texas.
West Texas,
Yeah.
that's a different element I didn't even think about. Because like my family is from Mississippi Delta, like Elvis
Hmm.
Presley stole our music. But I'm from where rock and roll it's like a very different kind. I think whenever I was listening to the album, I had to remember that she is from Texas because I kind of wanted more of like
Hmm.
her song, like Sugar Mama.
Yeah.
I'ma be like a Jolly Rancher that you give. When she was like kind of that like dirty, like juke joint rock.
Yeah.
But it definitely seems like she tried to go for a more quote unquote pristine white
Yeah.
Western, even Appalachian sort of ish country. But I do think she needed more flavor in there. So she had to
Yeah.
have some Tejano influence or something. Because that is, I mean, Texas was Mexico before.
I would have
Um,
loved to seen an interpolation of a Selena song. I really thought,
oh, oh man.
and maybe it was too obvious.
Como la flor.
I mean, come on. It was right there. It was
Amor prohibido. Like, ugh.
Yeah, I was just like a little, and I think the astrology when she released it was like not great too, if I recall. Like it was because it was like March of 2024 or 2023. God, I don't even know when years are anymore. I feel like
I
it was
think,
an eclipse. It was an eclipse time with I think some sort of retrograde in the mix. But I don't know. I'm curious how her. It seems like we're gonna get a third act renaissance. I don't know. I wish it would. I hope it's emo because I think that would be hilarious. But I
Bill
don't.
speech.
It's probably going to be some form of rock, but I would love emo. I think that would be tight. Okay, I'm just looking through my notes. There was a lot. I if so for anyone listening, living, experiencing, we've been at this N degrees lingering on these late 20, 27, 28, 29 degrees Pisces for a minute. And you know what? I think it just comes back to and the thing I've been hearing from a lot of people of just how bored they're feeling with so much of culture things, with people. It's like even like someone who hasn't mentioned in this pop culture time who's gone through a lot of phases is like Kanye. And I think sorry, trigger warning, Kanye West. Yeah. But even with Kanye at a certain point, and I do think he has like I hope he's gets help because I do think there's some mental health things afoot. But him being this contrary figure to me, and me and my husband talk about this all the time, like, oh, Kanye did the opposite devil's advocate thing of what's popular in media. Like, that's boring to me now. It's like, yeah, no shit.
Yeah.
Like, of course you did. Oh
Mm,
wow, they went right, you went left, you went left, they went right. Like, oh wow, like I don't know, it just feels so there's also like a dishonesty there that feels like that
mhm.
Pisces appeal to the most people. And I do think Aries is going to be like, I don't fucking care about appealing to the most people because what does that get me even? And we're even seeing this again with podcasting and now liberal media and Democrats are like, we need our Joe Rogan. And it's like, we're never going to have that because, first of all, you don't fund this stuff. Like, maybe there will be new liberal media outlets that are self-funded and independent or whatever, but like, that's never going to happen because that it will be the most boring thing I've ever heard of for like back to
Yeah.
boring. Like, that this energy of like conservative media is if you want fear is a constant flow and there's always something to fear
Mm,
like if you want to like if that's what you're in if that is what you're into.
exactly.
I just think and maybe it's not I'm not saying this as advice. I just think a lot of people are just going to be like, oh fuck this shit. I think there's just going to be a lot of like exiting traditional society.
There's just
However,
so much oversaturation of like everything. I feel like everyone's just kind of over it.
yeah, there's like an enough is enough. But but if it comes back to always, and I think even with like, back to TikTok and TikTok astrology or whatever, it's like, yeah, all these things are always going to exist. But like, I even think about this in terms of how much people are going to get paid for brand deals because at a certain point, everyone can't be famous.
Yeah.
You know what I
Mm-mm.
mean? Like we've now hit this thing where, oh my God, like the Hawk Tuah girl's getting this deal. And I guess she has a successful podcast now, but you can't like every single person that had a viral clip can't have like
Mhm.
multi-million
Be famous.
dollar
Yeah.
deals and be famous. So like,
And influencer marketing doesn't really, I mean, the way that they have been doing it doesn't really it doesn't make a difference really. The way
right.
that just choosing people who are like famous or whatever. I think
Hmm.
there's more like to it.
I wonder if, like, in terms of the response to like a lot of the anti-intellectualism and anti-college kind of rhetoric that's been in the past, if we're going to see more folks, and we probably already starting are like going into trade schools or going into like intentional living places where we're like, well, I want to learn how to like build houses here in this
Mhm.
forest or whatever in Kentucky with these group of people, which I guess sounds like a cult when I start describing it a little bit, which it depends if it is or it isn't. But also,
What is the
too,
central text?
cults are always going to be around. And I don't know if they necessarily had I mean, I guess in theory they did with Neptune and Pisces because there's so many cult of insert your thing here and cult of
Mhm.
high intensity circuit training, the cult of
Mukbang.
even mukbangs and teal swan or whatever, like whatever it is. I don't know. Yeah, I think like this collective Pisces, it's been so group minded coming from Aquarius into Pisces because all the signs build and lead on each other. But now with Aries, it's so radically of the self. I think it's gonna, I don't know if like those big group things are gonna hit like they once do, especially like even now, like I think because of social media and people will post a party, I hear from my friends like, oh, well, now I have to invite this person, this person, and I'm like, it's good to be inclusive, but also like it's okay to like hang out with like three people. Like it doesn't
Yeah,
have to
whatever.
be every person, So it feels
Mhm.
like a trimming down because Aries is a very simple sign at when it's really boiled, where Pisces can
Forward.
encompass it all. Aries can be really singular. And again, for better or worse. Okay, well, I mean, it will be fine. Things
Yeah.
the future will future. It's gonna be so different. I think all these outer planet changes and the taste of it in 2025 is like this will be different. And I guess I just encourage anyone listening, if you're feeling ready for a different stuff, you're on time because everything
Mhm.
is changing. And if you maintaining a life you've built since 2011, depending on whatever age you are, for some people, you're just coming into your adulthood now. This is going to be that era that, that Keyoncé and I are reflecting on. Like we started this Neptune era. I mean, how old was I in 2011? How old were we?
22,
22. And I'm
21, 20.
35 now. So yeah, for folks now, this you're starting your whether you're starting your 22s or coming in your 30s or whatever, like this is the cool, interesting part of astrology is like we're gonna learn and we're gonna experience and we're gonna be storytelling and data tracking
Mhm.
from this. But yeah, I think just the symbol of bubbles popping feel very strong with Neptune and Pisces. Of course, there's a lot of eras, planetary areas of like war, but Lord, we're speaking from a United States perspective, one aren't we? And I think we're just going to see this very. I mean, it feels just. I just hear that like it's very independence, right? Like
Yeah. Strategy, like I said, it's important
strategy.
right now. Read, strategize, don't overreact and get too paranoid. Read as
Hmm.
much as you can
I
and come
hear.
up with a bunch of scenarios.
Oh, I want to pull a card for us before we go, if that's okay.
Ooh, please.
Um,
Oh, that's a
it's a
refreshing for someone else to pull a card.
it's a seashell oracle that I love, which feels very Neptune and Pisces too.
I
It's
love
downstairs.
that.
I'll go grab it in a second. But I think too, I know next year, 2025, is a hermit card year.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
So, but I
Go
think, but the
within.
hermit's internal. Yes, it's a going in. Don't feed the fucking
Solitary
trolls.
practice. That's what I was talking about. People
Solid.
going in underground, more solitary practices, period.
You are your
Study these
teacher.
transits, study these transits, and figure out how they apply to you and your chart. You know what I mean?
Hmm. And I say this reference a lot, depending on what, if you're just graduating college, you're like, what the fuck? Or you're, starting your life or you're starting your family or doing these things. Like, I always describe it as like if an industry or a thing that was promised to us is gone, you don't want to be the coal miner sitting around waiting for coal to restart to open. You know what I
Gotta
mean?
find a
Like,
pivot.
it's time to pivot. Okay, I'm gonna just go grab those cards. They're downstairs, so I'll be right
Okay, take your
back.
time. I'm like literally chilling. Like,
Okay, great. One second. Okay, but while I shuffle, any closing thoughts, Keonce? Anything I mean, you're always welcome back on too if we want to
Yeah,
keep
we need to,
any
let's do this a regular
conversations going.
thing.
I know I love
Um,
talking to you.
yeah, because I was kind of off for a minute, but I feel like yeah, I come back when the times are when it's needed. Any closing thoughts? Let me think. Well, let's see. Well, if you're a Black person and you're interested in a book club, I have started a book club actually. Go to my website, millennialsoulfood.com, and it's there. Send me an email at millennialsoulfood@gmail.com and just state your interest, and then I'll give you further instructions. But yeah, otherwise, I guess my closing message is just don't overreact right now. Strategize, read up on the history of the world, look at different scenarios. Everything is repeated. So we're basically just going through another cycle of something that happened before. So read up, study up.
I love that. I'll put links to everything too. And just that thought made me think like Neptune Aries, dude, be strong. Like all these
Yeah.
other bitches are fighting for their shit. So know what's worth the fight and what's not. Because a lot of
Mhm.
things are not like, all right, you don't get it. That's okay. Like
Choose your battles
use
with
those
this
damn
time.
battles because everyone's gonna be, what is this about me? And it's like,
Exactly.
no.
My
It's
plight, my plight. When it's like, girl, can we
when
just get
history is huge and all this shit has happened before. All these planets have been in these signs before, maybe not necessarily all in these configurations in order. And yeah, people have lived through fucking hard times all the time. We just
so much?
we're in it's almost reassuring how like unspecial we are because we are very special too. It's all true. Okay, this is a card, do you want a card for you?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna do one for you, for me, and for everyone listening. Okay, this one's for you. So I am using the Seashell Oracle. It's kind of hard on my little Zoom video. Not a sponsored ad, but I'll take. Oh my god,
Maybe put it in front of your face or something. Oh,
it's just. Anyways, you get the vibe. Oh, this is the Beachcomber. Oh my god,
oh, okay.
I'll do. I'm like I could turn off my
Never
background.
heard of a beachcomber. Maybe put your hand behind it like this, the way the people do it. Yeah, that's a little bit better. Oh, this
And I'll.
green screen is like way too good.
I know. Hang on. Let me.
It's
I'll
very
do.
like it.
All right. I turn off my background, even though I love being in the cloud. So that's the Beachcomber. So let me go back in the clouds for my own safety. My own safety.
Yeah.
Well, I have so many mirrored, like I have a lot of mirrors. I love mirrors, but then if one side of the room is messy, it's like it projects everything. So I always stay in like the digital cloud. So the Beachcomber is the three lines below say curiosity. I never know how to pronounce this. Avarice, and pursuit. So I'm going to
Mm,
pull this up here. This is for keyoncé. Are my fantastic guests today. Like, couldn't have done this without you. Thank you for your time, energy, spirit, thoughts, brain, intellect, everything. You're a gem of a person. I'm so glad the astrology universe brought us together. So, shout out to the internet. Good things can happen. Um,
hell yeah. I have met so many great people. Yeah, and yeah, I'm just so appreciative of you too. Just
oh, well,
yeah,
and this
this
is
cathartic too. Like I've really this is fun. Like, yeah.
we all need to get into our philosophy era. That's my thought. Like, if you like share your ideas, do no harm, talk to your people, like, and this is why this is a great place to plug, and I don't mean it in an icky way. If you would like to pay to support this publication, it's $7.77 a month, basically for buying me an iced coffee, so I could tip $1 to the barista. You can get all the paywall content, and also I call it the third space because it's an affordable place to hang out for a long time, and I think that's what people need in
Hmm.
this modern day
To
area
study up,
era
learn.
the areas and areas it's like yeah I can sit here and plot my ass for hours and converse and learn and talk with my friends how you feel things without it having to be even solution based. A lot of the times it's just because when you can process your feelings like I think so much of like conversation now, like, so what do we do about him? When we just like, dude, I'm just like existing and like reflecting back
Exactly.
what's here. So anyway, as a beachcomber, this deck is divided into like four different suites. What's in tarot?
Suits.
Suits, you know. So there's the seashells, the ocean, the creatures, and the sea people. So a beachcomber is a sea person, like it's a human being. And it says, the beachcomber walks gazing down, searching the sand for nature's gifts. The seeking is the finding. What will you fill your pockets with? What will you leave buried in the sand? So that's for, yeah, I mean, like a beachcomber,
Fill
it's
my
like the person
pockets
walking
with.
around with the like, in modern days, that'd be like the metal detector kind
I
of
think I'm gonna
person.
fill my pockets with money and money from a sugar daddy. I think.
Oh,
It's shut up. Oh, I see. Oh, I see something. Oh,
oh my God. Well, so mote it
claiming
be.
it because if I get sugar daddy, I'm gonna be like Stevie, fly your ass to Atlanta.
I
We
know.
we going to the steakhouse.
I got a guest room here. Come through and we'll go to the steakhouse here. I need a sugar. While I'm on the fiance's wish, I will also take a sugar parent. Um, Me and Pablo talk about that all the time. We're like, should we just get like a sugar, like we'll have sex in front of some rich person? I don't care. Like,
Times are fucking rough, so what you no judgment here. I'm here for
and
all of it.
here's what I hope comes back. And I don't know if this is related to Neptune and Aries, but we can look back. When did rich people stop being benefactors of the arts? Because my God, build some libraries, build some fucking museums, be a Guggenheim, be a Getty, like be a
You
Rockefeller,
name yourself after it.
name it. I don't give a fuck. Just
Yeah,
build it. And
legacy.
and and I think too for artists, back to the Neptune and Pisces making artists feel crazy. We need cheap spaces to work and create and to
Hmm.
frolic and play. And I think that's what we're going to see built for a lot of people. It's like if it's, a lot of the major cities, and again, it will flow, honey. If you need to leave your New York or LA for a minute, you'll come
Let it
back. Like,
flow, let it flow,
just
let
go where
it.
you can be and create. Okay, this is for mommy. I'm mommy.
Yes, mommy.
Sand. I will turn off my background for a sec. Sand. And it's like a sand castle.
Cute.
We'll build sand
Stability in building
castles.
an institution, I feel like.
Infinity, grit, and shifts. Not the
Mm.
Beyonce. We'll build sand castles. Da, da, da.
I actually didn't listen to that song.
Oh yeah, it's not.
Is that on the that Halo album?
I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it's
didn't.
the
I
like,
didn't
it's the
really.
Lifetime movie kind of song. She always has one or
Lifetime
two.
movie. What is it? LMN movie.
Sand for me. This is for mommy. And if you relate, claim it. But when you wonder at the persistence of the sand that finds its way into every crack and corner, remember that millennia ago, each grain was a mountain.
Hey. Ooh.
Are these
Hey.
good?
That reminds me of the mustard seed quote from the Bible.
Oh, okay. Preach. Wait, what's
Child,
the
why
quote?
put me on the spot?
It sounds familiar. I mean, I went to
Let
Catholic
me
school.
look here. Because I'm a bad because I'm a bad former fundamentalist Christian person.
Mm,
Mustard, the faith, what is it? The faith of a mustard seed.
the faith
Mustard seed.
of the mustard seed.
Can move a mountain. So that's why I'm
Oh.
saying, mustard seeds grow from being very small to being really big. So it's like a big, it's like a thing where it's like, you really grow into your purpose. You grow
Hmm.
into moving mountains with what you believe in.
I think too, because we've been memory laning and this Neptune and Pisces time was for us our early 20s to mid 30s, which is quite fundamental. And two, like every little moment that I thought was a grain of sand is here now. And like
Mm.
even like one of my first jobs when I moved to LA was like through a guy I was in photo club with. Like I'm just here to tell folks like just do things, just say yes. Like being home, like home will be there. Like, of course, if you need your comfort and security, whatever, sanctuary time. But I saw some fucking graph that's like young people go out less than twice a week with friends. Like that's
What?
no, it's low, honey. It's low as shit.
That's huh? I don't really
But I
even.
get that a lot of it is cost, but like if you're missing, like I don't know, I was just texting my girlfriends the
Well,
other night. I was like, on Friday night. I was like, come over and sit in my, like, we're chilling.
Dude,
Living
yeah.
room, pizza, nothing.
But and back when we were like in our 20s, Thursday was the night you started going out.
Oh yeah, I love a thirsty Thursday. Or also, I would just like watch movies with my friends. Like we're gonna an
Watch
intimacy,
movies.
and I
Yeah.
think that's the other part too that got lost in this Neptune Pisces time is that hanging out has to be an event, and then it has to be this thing that's pr- pretty and
That's just how
documentable.
I feel like we did hanging out, or that's how we do hanging out as millennials.
And that's even now seeing the like resurgence of like digital cameras and like Facebook album sort of photos of like like doing the mundane with your people is community building too. It doesn't just have
Yeah.
to be nonstop back to the performance of it all. But
I'm
this is a
really.
message. Oh yeah, go on.
Yeah. Oh no, 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 you go ahead.
That was I was just got the card for the collective.
I love that. Oh, the collect. What is it?
Is I'm getting it queued up. Actually, wait, I'll show it first. It is a glory of the seas, this like shell,
Ooh, huh.
the glory of the seas, which is interesting for Neptune Pisces. This, I mean, I know this is like a seashell oracle, so seas are going to come up. Desire, singularity, hello, and fame is the last thing said. So this must be under the shells. Hold up, hold up. They don't love me like I love you. The seashells, glory. Okay, here we go. Before, I love how things are written sometimes. Before the advent of scuba diving, there were less than 100 known specimens of this known highly prized shell. Inventory your own cabinet of curiosities. What is most precious to you? What do you possess that others covet?
Mm.
Interesting. I think this comes back to like,
Hmm.
isn't this like the economy too? Is like, oh yeah, value. Like value of things are always going to change. And I think too, with like so much mass consumption, like I don't know, I maybe there'll be like a minimalism movement too. Also because so many people are going to be not tied to a
Tiny
home.
houses.
Like having this yeah, I mean this was like the most valuable shell for like centuries basically. Like this was like what was used as currency.
Hmm.
So also what currency, I mean we're going to see a lot of currency I think changes in general, especially
Cryptocurrency.
with the crypto. Yeah. Also, I'm just looking up a little bit more of this glory of the seashell. And it was the crown jewel of seashells used as a form of money, rarity, and cost. And it was like a huge wealth and status symbol. So this card was a reminder to look at what you have. And I think that's like a really nice lesson of it all, is everything feels so big and intimidating. Like you are a prize and like you're the life you're building is so uniquely yours. And it's like it doesn't have to
Be
be
in the
anybody else's.
present.
Mm-hmm.
Start at your own baseline.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, fuck. We carry it. We continue on. I mean, Neptune was home. Now it starts something totally brand new in a totally different era and something we haven't seen in modern age. And
Woo.
we'll keep on recording history together.
And we'll keep on making the commentary. So
Yeah. So I'll put all the links to keyoncé. You know where to find me, but if you don't, spaghetti underscore witch on most pretty much all social platforms.
I love your social media and your TikTok.
Oh my God. Well, I'm just starting to get over there. You know, we all just got to play around and
Play
post,
around,
hang out.
experiment.
Mama likes to blog and vlog sometimes. So, and sound off in the comments. Would love to hear if there's any historical things or cultural, astrology is a mathematical science. Like there are points in the sky and we can track patterns, but it's also a social science of like, what did you think? Like, what did you experience of this? How did this land for you wherever you live, especially if you're an international listener. I know there's a lot of
Mm.
US stuff. Like,
Let
let me
us know.
know. It helps to know. So keep on reporting. You'll be okay. Like we've done this all before. Just like protect your peace. Period.
And strategize. We got this.
And truly strategize. Like sitting around waiting for like the Pisces luck to hit is not going to be the strategy for Neptune and Aries.
Aries, action, solutions.
And sorry, like while we're here, like with all these changes that are coming, we'll have Neptune in Aries, which is going to be making positive energy to Pluto in Aquarius because they sextile each other. And then when Uranus moves into Gemini, it's also the same Aries sextiles Gemini, and then Gemini trines Aquarius and Pluto. So all of this is in air quotes positivity. They all like each other, right? But that means that they're all progressing in the sort of same way. So just like take it like that's what's happening. So,
Mm-hmm.
and this, it's back to the election for a second. It's so wild that the Kamala phrase for just a brief moment, well, there's two brief phrases. They're weird, which was working.
I
And
really
then
like that.
you liked it or did it?
I liked it.
I liked it too. Well, it is weird.
It's
Like,
fucking weird. It's like
well, and guess what?
not
Tim
real.
Walls, Aries. It
Mm.
was like, this is just weird. Like, I don't
Yeah,
like,
I loved that phrase.
and then they neutered him and said, stop that. And here we are. And not to blame it all on that, but that's an
Because
element of it.
I do actually like it better than like what has been is there for what has not been. Do you remember that quote she would always say?
Oh,
Like, we have to
her
remember what
coconut.
has been to like heal from what is there to be.
You exist in with the context of all of which you've lived and came before it. Something I have this like memorized weirdly.
And she said that like a million times. And again, I'm not trying to berate on a black woman, but I'm like, girl, we needed something more like that's weird because it is fucking weird. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But
she's a Libra.
what
She's
else,
a you know, and also to the other messaging that she was saying for a minute, but kind of fell off was we're not going back. And I agree, we're not going back. We're going into a
we
totally
are not fucking going back. I don't give a fuck who's president.
we're going into a
We're
very
not.
weird new future. But the idea that we're going to come back to some prosperous 2019 era is just, you guys, everyone's got to let that go. That's
No.
the now. So I think that's the other part in coming back to that bubble bursting of Neptune and Pisces. It's just like, you can't, and it's that meme that always goes around where it's like, hey, can we have gay rights? And Republicans are like, no. And then Democrats will be like, no, but peace sign with rainbow flags and like all it's still the no.
Performative.
Yeah, the performance, the Pisces, the end of the zodiac is coming to an end. It's truth time, and that truth was a lot of that was a performance, and a lot of that did not actually result in progress. Same thing with defund the police, honey. They got fucking they're the military now. Like it's what did all like, and I'm not saying that means stop what you're doing and stop calling for action, but like I don't know. Maybe it's the local, getting back to the localness, getting back to the
Local
truth,
municipality voting.
back to the truth of it all. Because again, if you're coming in and getting mad every 4 years from the electoral presidential politics, I, there's been stuff going on in between. Okay, sorry, random end note, but like had to throw it out there
I love
as
it.
we were discussing. So thank you for listening to Star Quality. More episodes will be out, and subscribe to get your weekly horoscopes and all the articles too written for your ingresses and all that. So I appreciate your support, and I appreciate you, Keyoncé. You're the best. You're the best. All right. See you next time, guys. Bye.